Hello and welcome to Lore for Sleep. I'm your host, Laura. Please make yourself comfortable and let the stories of the multiverse take you away. So we begin with Season 2 of Dark. Episode 1 opens on June 21, 1921, deep within the Vinden Caves. The rhythmic clanging of a hammer on metal reverberates like the heartbeat of a mechanical being. Inside the cave, two men laboriously extract rock, carving out what will eventually become the tunnels for time travel. The first man, with dark hair, pauses in his work, pondering the profound idea that the beginning and the end might be one and the same. His companion, a young man with blonde hair, quotes the phrase, "Sic mundus creatus est," which translates to "Thus the world was created." The first man returns to his task with newfound determination, chanting "Sic mundus creatus est," his chest adorned with the same mysterious tattoo seen on Noah's back. His chanting unsettles the other man, who observes him with a sense of disquiet. After their toil is done for the day, the young man, revealed to be a teenage Noah, questions his companion's belief in the prophecy. The nameless man responds cryptically, stating that he believes in the irony of fate. Young Noah reminds him of Adam's command to replicate the time loop precisely, no matter how challenging, with the promise that paradise will emerge in 6 days, putting an end to the earthly hell. The nameless man, tattooed like Noah, contemplates whether paradise and hell could be the same place. Noah confides that he has lost his faith in Adam's cause. The nameless man inquires if this is the reason Adam sent him and expresses his hope that Noah will one day cease to blindly follow Adam's directives. He then urges Noah to question why Adam took him in and bestowed upon him the name Noah. Sitting on a tree stump, his back turned to Noah, the nameless man is suddenly attacked by the young Noah. Noah mercilessly stabs the man with a pickaxe, and he collapses to the ground. Noah strikes twice more, and the man appears dead, eerily resembling an older version of Bartos from Season 1. The scene leaves us with questions: is this tattooed man an ancestor, or could he be Bartos, hinting at a paradoxical connection to Noah's future recruitment? As a rule, in this world of time loops and paradoxes, no one is conclusively declared dead until they are buried, decapitated, or burned. Even if this were Bartos, he might possess the cunning to feign death. The story then transitions to an older Noah, who opens a triquetra log and gazes at an entry, June 27, 2020, beginning of the last cycle. After the opening credits, the focus shifts to Jonas and Martha, who share a moment of intimacy. Jonas reassures Martha, proclaiming their perfect compatibility and urging her to always believe in it. However, Jonas is suddenly jolted awake. Jonas, in a mud-stained rain jacket, awakens in his own home, which is eerily abandoned. Grief-stricken, he takes out a letter from his father and proceeds downstairs for his morning routine. The absence of his mother, Hannah, is palpable. He glances at the fridge but resists the urge to open it. Instead, he approaches the wall, where a circle marks the date June 27, 2020. The days leading up to June 20th are marked with X's, but the subsequent days remain blank. These blank days correspond to the period of mourning marking the 1-year anniversary of Michael's suicide, observed by Hannah for her late husband. Jonas, grasping a family photo, departs the home. The world outside is a scene of utter destruction, with Vinden in ruins. His quest leads him through the town until he finally discovers what he seeks at the school. He then makes his way to the bunker, where he listens to a cassette recording made by Claudia Tietman, part of a collection of recordings in his possession. In the recording, Claudia reveals herself as one of the few survivors of the apocalypse that occurred on June 27, 2020. 3 months have passed since the catastrophe, and the cause remains unclear. Claudia suggests that the God particle might offer a way back to the past if it can be stabilized. She hopes that by doing so, they can save everyone who was lost. As he listens to Claudia's words, Jonas clutches a St. Christopher medal and gazes at a photograph of Martha. Saint Christopher, a Christian martyr, is the patron saint of travelers. The narrative then shifts to June 21, 2020, just 6 days until the impending apocalypse. The local radio announcer reads a list of the missing individuals in Vinden, which includes Erik Obendorf, Yashin Friis, Mads Nielsen, Mikkel Nielsen, Ulrik Nielsen, Jonas Kanwald, and old Helga Doppler. Hannah, emotionally devastated, grapples with the fact that all the men and boys she has ever loved are on that list, except for her father. This day also marks the anniversary of her husband's suicide, a painful reminder that she dutifully acknowledges by marking off June 21 on the calendar. In the desolate year 2053, Jonas emerges from a building in Vinden. He conceals his identity with a mask and a hood, revealing a town devastated by some catastrophic event, likely a nuclear explosion. The cinematography uses a grey washout filter to depict a colorless world buried in dust, remnants of the disaster. Jonas carries a backpack made of indestructible material, packed with essential supplies. In this grim future, we learn that Vinden was obliterated, and most of its inhabitants perished due to a catastrophic event involving radiation. Jonas makes his way to the school, now almost unrecognizable. The remnants of desks and a basketball goal hint at the past. He retrieves something from the school and proceeds towards a hatch, descending into a bunker. Within the bunker, photos of Vinden residents remain on the wall, connected by strings that form a complex web. Jonas inserts a tape into a recorder, featuring Claudia Tietman, one of the few survivors of the June 27, 2020 apocalypse. She speaks of the God particle and the importance of stabilizing it. Jonas relocates a photo of Martha, placing it on a desk beside a special coin called a St. Christopher's pendant. The narrative shifts back to June 21, 2020, just 6 days before the impending apocalypse. Hannah stands in her kitchen, marking the calendar, mirroring Jonas's earlier actions. At the Tiedman home, Regina's battle with cancer takes a toll, and Bartos receives a message from Martha, summoning him to the bridge. In the Vinden police station, a new investigator named Clausen arrives to take charge of the missing children case. He plans to collaborate with Charlotte Doppler, but some, like Mr. Obendorf, express discontent about the slow progress of the investigation. Magnus and Franziska share a moment by the lake. They feel neglected and useless at home and part ways after a text message prompts Franziska to pick up Elizabeth. Magnus sets off on his own mission. Katarina Nielsen ventures towards the cave entrance with a map and a flashlight, displaying determination in her search. Returning to 2053, Jonas passes the power plant and encounters a field of graves. He pays his respects, leaving a family photo at the grave of Michael Kanwald. He lingers at the grave of Martha Nielsen before continuing his journey. In the year 2020, Martha rides her bike towards the bridge to meet Bartos, who is waiting underneath. Their conversation starts awkwardly. Bartos is upset because Martha has been ignoring his calls, while Martha accuses Bartos of hiding things and changing. He reveals that his mother is dying, and Martha shares her own pain of her father and brother disappearing. The stress takes its toll, leading to their breakup. Bartos receives a mysterious message on his phone that says this evening. At the Vinden power plant, Alexander Tietman announces the plant's decommissioning in 6 days during a staff meeting. He thanks the staff for their service and heads to the reactor room with an employee to prepare for the plant's shutdown. Hannah sits at her kitchen table and finds a passport and a gun in a decorated box. As she contemplates using it, stranger Jonas enters. Hannah is bewildered by his presence but eventually believes he is her son, Jonas. Their emotional reunion is a touching moment. Noah's voice speaks of predetermination and the interconnected threads of the world's journey. In another scene, Francisca places an item in a small metal box near railroad tracks, with Magnus watching her suspiciously. In 1921, middle-aged Noah converses with his younger self, discussing guilt and moral questions. The older Noah advises the younger one to listen to his inner voice. In 2053, Jonas encounters a group of militants in a field of corpses hanging from trees. They are led by a fierce, scarred woman who resembles the younger Elizabeth. She speaks in sign language and enforces strict rules, hanging men for breaking them. They question Jonas about his origin, and Jonas is desperate to learn what is outside the wall and save his family and friends in 2020. In 2020, a younger Elizabeth visits Tannhaus store with Peter Doppler. She finds a photo of herself with Tannhaus, revealing a connection between them. At the Vinden police station, Charlotte and Clausen go through case files. Clausen seems to be subtly interrogating Charlotte, especially regarding Ulrich. Waller brings in parents' statements, and Clausen remains determined to work with Charlotte in their investigations. We find Martha on a quest to locate her mother, and instead, she stumbles upon the hidden files that Katerina has been meticulously studying. The secrets hidden in those documents have the power to change everything. Meanwhile, Katerina herself is deep in the cave, trying to decipher a cryptic map she's found. As she reaches a dead end, her expression becomes one of deep disappointment, leaving us wondering what answers lie just out of her reach. Elsewhere, in an elegant room, the enigmatic figures of Adam and Noah engage in a cryptic conversation. Adam is determined to uncover the missing pages from a mysterious black book, emphasizing that the impending apocalypse is a necessary event. He draws an eerie analogy of burning down an old forest to make way for new trees, all while a painting of the Fall of the Damned by Peter Paul Rubens looms on the wall. Their discussion is abruptly interrupted when a woman informs Adam that they're waiting. Magnus, on the other hand, finds himself in a covert pursuit, following Francisca to a metal box beneath the railroad tracks. His curiosity deepens as he observes her leave, and then, a surprise appearance by Benny leaves him with more questions than answers. What he witnesses hints at a complex web of relationships and misunderstandings. Back at the Canwald house, Hannah seeks answers from stranger Jonas, desperately searching for her Jonas. But what she learns is both shocking and heart-wrenching. Jonas is trapped in the future, and there might be no way back. A somber request from stranger Jonas sets the stage for an ominous turn of events. In another corner of Vinden, Elizabeth stumbles upon a peculiar photograph in her great-grandfather's possessions, revealing Noah's connection to the secretive group known as Sic Mundus. She shows her discovery to Peter, further entangling them in the town's web of mysteries. The Vinden police station is not without its intrigue. Clausen and Charlotte are drawn deeper into their investigation when Peter contacts Charlotte, claiming to have found Noah. This revelation leads to a plan for a drive the next day. Late at night, Jonas descends into the bunker, clutching a St. Christopher's pendant, an object that carries immense significance in the tangled narrative of Vinden. Back at the Nielsen house, Magnus and Martha delve into the unsettling world of Mikkel's room, sharing their suspicions about Katerina's quest to follow a hidden trail. Meanwhile, Katerina continues her relentless search. In a tense moment, Bartos stands outside the cave, waiting for Noah. The two men share a cryptic exchange, leaving us to wonder about their hidden agendas. Then, a surprising revelation unfolds as Waller exits Benny's trailer. We learn that Benny and Waller are siblings, offering a glimpse into the dynamics of their relationship and the secrets they hold. In the bunker, Charlotte joins Peter, who presents her with the photograph of Noah that Elizabeth discovered. When they turn it over, a date is revealed, 1921. Francisca tries to reach out to Magnus, but he remains indifferent to her calls. In her arms, Elizabeth clutches a stuffed fox, perhaps seeking solace in its comfort. Nearby, Hannah quietly observes a sleeping Jonas, her hand reaching out towards his scar-covered back, a testament to their shared experiences. Meanwhile, Regina is confined to a hospital-style bed in her own living room, her health seemingly deteriorating. At the local power plant, yellow barrels are being concealed under a layer of cement, hinting at hidden secrets. In the midst of this intrigue, Clausen, a determined figure, opens an enigmatic letter he's been carrying. In another time and place, a young Noah ventures outside, perhaps on a path to discover his own destiny. Then, there's a sudden shift to the year 2053. Jonas, defying the rules, enters the perilous dead zone. As he ventures deeper into the ominous center, he clutches a globe light and a radiation detector. Guided by a signal, he finally reaches the heart of the dead zone, the Vinden power plant. There, he encounters a mesmerizing sight, a pulsating God particle, black and blue, shrouded in mystery and danger. Episode 2, Season 2 of Dark. In the year 2053, Jonas is determined to access the enigmatic blue-black pulsing blob known as the God particle, believing it to be a time portal. His motivation stems from Claudia Tiedeman's audio recordings, which he's been listening to. However, entering the particle requires stability and electrical balance, which they currently lack due to insufficient AC current in the generator. Frustrated and out of options, Jonas begins to question when Claudia made these recordings. Claudia's recordings mention stabilizing the God particle and the potential for time travel, although there are many unanswered questions. Jonas, captivated by the possibility of time travel, doesn't dwell on the uncertainties. The scene shifts to June 22, 1987, just 5 days before the impending apocalypse. Mikkel, who occupies the same bedroom as Jonas in the Canwald house, wakes up and reminisces about his mother's birthday. Ines, wearing blue, reminds him that the past is unchangeable. Meanwhile, at the Tiedemann house, a younger Claudia lives with Regina. The house appears modest in 1987, yet it will eventually transform into the opulent Tiedemann residence of 2019. Egon arrives to take teenage Regina to school but has some news to share, though Claudia is preoccupied. To Egon's surprise, the dog, Gretchen, is there, a reference to her time traveling from 1953 to 1986. Regina, with a makeover and a changed appearance, hints at her relationship with young Alexander. In the year 2020, Charlotte examines the Sic Mundus group photo and focuses on Noah's picture in the Vinden police station. Clausen enters her office and expresses suspicion towards Regina and particularly Alexander, questioning his decision to adopt Regina's last name. At the Doppler house, tension unfolds as Magnus confronts Franziska about her source of income and accuses her of cheating with Benny. She reveals that she delivers hormone therapy pills to Benny for pay, leaving Magnus somewhat deflated. Back at the Canwald house, stranger Jonas reveals the existence of the time machine to Hannah, emphasizing the importance of transparency and encouraging her to witness Dad's secret. In 1987, Mikkel, seeking safety on his mother's birthday, hesitates at the schoolyard. When he encounters teenage Katarina and Hannah, he feels a sense of recognition. Hannah's reaction to Mikkel hints at a deeper connection, and as Katarina calls her away, Mikkel chooses to leave school, longing to return to the comfort of his mother's embrace. In the present day, Claudia visits the Vinden power plant and is surprised to encounter her older self, Claudia from the future. The elder Claudia believes Gretchen belongs to her and speaks with her younger self in her office. She explains that she remembers being in the shoes of her younger self and must convince her of the important role she needs to play. Egon, at home, receives a call informing him that his cancer has spread. He's engrossed in old news articles about the missing Mads Nielsen, a case he never solved. He ponders the diary with the question, why not Forest Road? That he planned to ask Helga, a question that was left unanswered. In the dystopian year 2053, Jonas sneaks into a building and uses an electrical current to power up a CD player playing Elvis Presley's Suspicious Minds. This attracts the attention of some militants who arrive in a truck to investigate. Jonas discreetly siphons gas from the truck for a generator. Flashing back to 1987, Alexander and Regina, now a couple, share a moment in the woods. Regina, feeling haunted by ghosts and demons in the lives of the adults around her, expresses her sadness about her absent mother. Alexander reassures her with his love and support. In 2020, Regina is questioned by Charlotte and Clausen about her connection to the Nielsen family. Although Regina denies any relationship, Clausen has done his homework. He knows that Ulrich came to confront her and inquires about it. Regina also admits her connection to the night her brother Mads went missing and the stranger Jonas, unsettling visit, during which he left creepy pictures and asked her to mail a package to Jonas. Stranger Jonas takes Hannah to the cave and activates the time machine. The cave starts to vibrate. In 1987, Mikkel senses the vibrations and runs to the cave, hoping to return to his time. He finds no immediate exit but encounters Noah. Mikkel recognizes him from the hospital. Noah offers words of comfort and faith, assuring Mikkel that God has a plan, even though Mikkel fears God might make mistakes. In 1987, Egon pays a visit to Helga in an assisted living facility, pretending it's a friendly visit but actually trying to interrogate him about the Forest Road incident. Helga gets freaked out and cryptically mentions a man who can change the past and future, and the White Devil. This piques Egon's interest. Helga also mentions the man with the rock, confusing Egon since that event occurred in 1954. Furthermore, Helga recalls the White Devil from his childhood. Meanwhile, in the caves, both Claudias discuss the need to stop Adam. The older Claudia shows the younger Claudia the time machine, just as Jonas had shown Hannah. Young Claudia is perplexed but accepts pages from the older Claudia, likely from the diary. They learn that the apocalypse will happen in 5 days and that Regina's life can be saved with the right actions. In 2053, Jonas ventures into the Forbidden Dead Zone with a can of gas but is immediately apprehended by Elizabeth and her guards. Back in 2020, Charlotte is distressed after discovering drawings in the stranger's box that resemble those in her grandfather's Journey Through Time book. She begins to question her grandfather's connection to the missing boys. In 2053, Elizabeth strings Jonas up for hanging, emphasizing that he knows the rules. Jonas protests the idea of paradise and prophecy, leading to Elizabeth shooting him in the leg. Surprisingly, she prevents him from dying, leaving a girl from the future visibly moved by Jonas's plight. Returning to 1987, Egon investigates the 1954 arrest of Ulrich and learns that Ulrich is still alive, held in a nearby psychiatric hospital. He visits Ulrich, who now has long grey hair, and the two share a strange history of quoting lyrics from a song by Creator. Egon is clueless about Ulrich's true identity. Meanwhile, Ines greets Mikkel, who didn't go to school. Mikkel asks Ines about her belief in God, and she says she believes God brought them together. They share a snack of toast Hawaii, a recipe popularized in the 1950s. In 2053, Jonas, in prison and in pain from his gunshot wound, faces Elizabeth's assistant who demands answers about why Elizabeth spared him and insists on seeing the God particle. In an interlude, several key events unfold in the intricate web of the time-traveling world. Jonas takes the girl from the future to the God particle, a critical location. Meanwhile, Ulrich and Egon ponder their thoughts separately in their respective rooms. Peter finds Charlotte at home and shares an emotional hug with her. But the most significant revelation occurs when the stranger Jonas shows Hannah a young Mikkel. This heartbreaking truth dawns on her: the boy she met at the hospital is none other than her husband, Michael Canwald. This revelation devastates her, helping her better grasp Mikkel's loneliness and emotional distance. The story then shifts to Claudia outside the Tietman house, where she follows a map to a marked spot and begins digging. In a clever shot, the audience sees Claudia digging up the time machine while, simultaneously, an older Claudia is burying the same machine in the 1950s, long before the creation of the power plant. The parallelism between the two moments is striking, highlighting the cyclical nature of time travel. In the final scene, Jonas manages to get the generator working. As the girl from the future watches, the God particle stabilizes, and he courageously steps through it, perhaps bringing him one step closer to finding a way out of the time loop. This episode is filled with significant revelations that deepen our understanding of the characters and the intricacies of the time-traveling narrative. Claudia's character becomes more intriguing, Jonas inches closer to a solution, and Hannah grapples with remorse for her husband's mysterious past. In Episode 3, Season 2 of Dark, titled Ghosts, we delve into a series of intriguing events across different time periods. The episode opens in the Blue Room with Helga and Noah. Helga, battered from his encounter with Ulrich, is visibly terrified. Noah reassures him and secures him into an older time machine. Noah emphasizes Helga's divine destiny and the omnipresence of time. In 1954, Doris and Agnes share an intimate moment in the bedroom, interrupted by Claudia's surprise visit. Claudia receives milk money and extra for candy, leaving Doris feeling guilty. Agnes departs with a compliment, "You're beautiful." At the Doppler residence in 1954, a young Helga returns, seemingly indifferent to his mother's affection despite his injuries. In the Vinden police station, Egon and Daniel Canwald discuss Ulrich's identity. They've had him for 7 months without a name or contact from anyone. Egon's distracted and asks Daniel about his marital life, leading to a light-hearted conversation. A policeman enters with news of the Doppler boys' return. Claudia and Tronte Nielsen talk in the woods, discussing their families. Tronte, revealing his past at an orphanage, mentions his brother, Noah, but they don't communicate. Claudia asks Tronte to reveal himself, and this shared secret deepens their connection. In 1987, Claudia interacts with Regina, noticing her maturity and school preparations. Claudia conceals a time machine in a suitcase while talking about spending the day together, but Regina declines, citing a lack of time. Claudia reflects on the concept of time and finds a book given by Helga, Journey Through Time by H.G. Tannhaus. The episode explores secrets, connections, and the pervasive theme of time in the characters' lives. Egon experiences a revelation while listening to Creator's Pleasure to Kill. He recalls the lyrics of the song, concluding that Ulrich's cryptic quote from 1953 was an admission of guilt. The story then shifts to 1954, where a young Egon pays a visit to the home of Greta and Bernd Doppler. Egon wants to question young Helga, who has been silent since his return. Greta chastises Helga for his silence, setting the scene for a tense interrogation. Jumping forward to 1987, Claudia engages Helga in a conversation about a book he gave her. Helga cryptically quotes Noah, suggesting that time is always with them and it's a battle of good versus evil. Claudia is puzzled and inquires about Noah. This unnerves Helga, who urges her not to trust him. The narrative then takes us to the Sic Mundus building, where Noah emerges. Agnes, clad in a striking yellow dress, meets him. Their discussion reveals a family connection between Agnes and Noah, and Claudia hands her a newspaper clipping with only 4 days left until a new cycle. The two women share a heartfelt moment, and Claudia expresses gratitude for Agnes' contributions to their cause. In an unspecified time, Claudia visits H.G. Tannhaus's shop to inquire about his book, Journey Through Time. Tannhaus, noticing her heterochromia, reveals that he has been expecting her. In 1954, a young Egon and Daniel have a conversation about Helga's unwillingness to talk. They also discuss Ulrich's imprisonment and question how he could have been involved in the mysterious events in Vinden. They speculate that Ulrich might have had an accomplice, and Daniel advises Egon to visit Ulrich again. Moving to 1987, an older Egon conducts an interview with old Ulrich in a psychiatric ward. Egon questions Ulrich about the lyrics of a song and points out that Ulrich referenced the lyrics in 1953, even though the song was released on vinyl only a few years ago. Egon is perplexed by how Ulrich knew about his cancer. He also notices that Ulrich's hair and uniform are white, leading him to wonder if Ulrich is the White Devil. Egon finally asks why the madman has never revealed his name, and Ulrich responds, "I'm Ulrich Nielsen." Jumping to a scene around 1987, Tannhaus talks to Claudia about the bootstrap paradox, explaining that if an object from the future is sent to the past, it has no clear origin. He mentions that the book was given to him and that he doesn't remember writing it. Returning to 1954, Egon visits Ulrich in his cell at the police station. Egon hesitates to enter the cell, fearing Ulrich's silence and the fact that Ulrich has been mistreated. Egon asks for Ulrich's name, and after Egon closes the cell door, Ulrich finally speaks and reveals, "I'm Ulrich Nielsen." In 1987, Egon examines his files and discovers records of a strange boy who arrived, claiming to be the son of Ulrich Nielsen, named Mikkel. In 1987, Tannhaus inquires about Claudia's presence and notices her suitcase. Surprisingly, Tannhaus correctly guesses that Claudia is here to learn about how the time machine works, thanks to a message from her future self. Switching to 1954, at the Doppler house, Noah pays a visit to check on Helga's well-being. Greta is anxiously worried, but when Helga comes downstairs, he warmly embraces Noah and even speaks when prompted. Noah declares Helga a miracle, hoping that Greta will treat him better from now on. Back to 1987, Egon visits Ines to discuss Mikkel. Ines is uncooperative and denies any knowledge of Mikkel's parents, all while concealing her use of sleeping pills. Egon requests a photo of the boy. In 1954, at the Sigmundus house, Noah finds Agnes in the chapel. Agnes seeks re-entry into the group and offers Noah the missing diary pages as payment. She plans to betray Claudia in order to gain Adam's trust again. In 1954, Egon reflects on Ulrich's photo when old Claudia pays him an unexpected visit. Claudia apologizes for the way things turned out and praises Egon as a good man, leaving him suspicious of her intentions due to her white hair and tattered appearance. Claudia departs as suddenly as she arrived. Returning to 1987, Claudia returns to work with her suitcase. She instructs her secretary to cancel all her appointments and is impatient for Egon to leave her office so she can concentrate on the time machine. Egon eventually reveals his cancer diagnosis, and Claudia, addressing him as Papa, hugs him. In 1954, a young Egon returns home and finds his daughter, young Claudia, sitting at the kitchen table. He brings her a bouquet of flowers and greets her affectionately, though he appears sad. Claudia notices his sadness and asks what's wrong. Egon confides in her, telling her that he thinks he saw a witch today. Claudia, with a touch of humor, teases her father, suggesting that witches don't apologize. She then takes notice of the flowers and tells Egon that the world doesn't deserve him, drawing a parallel with her older self's sentiments. Egon is left feeling uneasy about the striking similarity in their conversations. In 1987, an older Egon pays another visit to Ulrich and presents him with a photo. This action sparks a violent reaction from Ulrich, who almost chokes Egon in a fit of rage. It's unclear what Egon's intentions were. Perhaps he thought showing the photo might elicit sympathy from Ulrich and lead to a confession. Alternatively, he might have been testing Ulrich or simply observing his reaction. This intense scene showcases Egon seemingly attempting to connect with Ulrich on a deeper level, but Ulrich's anger reveals that Egon has always seen him as more of a wild, untamed creature, regardless of his age. Back in 1954, a young Tannhaus is paid a visit by old Claudia. She explains that the time machine isn't ready for her yet, and he's curious about its purpose. Tannhaus is unaware that it's a time machine. All he knows is that he's been following the blueprints Claudia left behind. Helga, a man burdened by guilt and inner turmoil, seeks solace in prayer with the St. Christopher's pendant. Egon, on the other hand, finds himself engrossed in a creator record, a brief respite from his turbulent life. Meanwhile, Ulrich, a man displaced in time, gazes out of a window, clutching a photo of Mikkel, his son lost to the time loops. Greta, an observer of these private moments, watches Helga's prayers. Egon's search for emotional refuge leads him downstairs, where he encounters Doris and Agnes sharing drinks, a scene steeped in its own complex history. Middle-aged Claudia, a key figure in this time-bending puzzle, loads cesium into a machine, hinting at her pivotal role in the events to come. The narrative takes a dramatic turn as we shift to another time and Claudia, now older, approaches a shack. Confronted by Noah, who brandishes a shotgun and taunts her about Agnes's betrayal, Claudia remains unperturbed. She reveals that she orchestrated her own death, controlling even her own demise, and alludes to a plan in motion. She understands that she is merely a pawn in Adam's game. Noah, torn between loyalty and curiosity, ultimately shoots Claudia and finds a set of missing pages in her possession, hinting at a revelation concerning Charlotte. Switching back to 1954, Agnes sits by Tronte's bedside and reveals an article about Claudia's death, unveiling the extent of Claudia's foresight and manipulation. It becomes clear that Claudia was determined to ensure her own fate unfolds according to her design. In 2020, an ailing Claudia stands outside Regina's home, confronting the consequences of her actions and the time she wasted, her emotions finally breaking through. She watches her daughter, Regina, struggling with illness, and it's a poignant moment of reflection. Finally, we cut to what seems to be 1921, where Noah reports to Adam that Claudia did not have the pages. In a moment of decision, Noah chooses to deceive Adam, realizing that their alliance may not be as steadfast as it appears. Throughout this episode, the intricacies of the Tiedemann family are explored. Both Egon and Claudia's actions are driven by a desire to protect their children, but their efforts are consistently thwarted by pre-existing barriers. Claudia's emotional distance, born from her own experiences, has shaped her relationship with her daughter. Similarly, Egon's obsession with unsolved cases and a failed marriage may have hindered his ability to connect with his daughter. The complexities of their pasts and their roles in the time loop add depth to the story, revealing that Claudia's ultimate motivation may indeed be her daughter's well-being. As the episode unfolds, it's clear that Claudia is a vital cog in the intricate machinery of time manipulation, and her journey is only just beginning, promising more enthralling twists and turns in the ongoing narrative. In episode 4, titled The Travelers, the story unfolds with Jonas awakening in a wheat field, disoriented and struggling to breathe. He's uncertain of his location but quickly realizes he needs to dispose of his hazmat suit and find answers. However, a fresh gunshot wound in his leg hinders his progress, forcing him to lean against a tree in agony. Two men, dressed in work attire, stumble upon Jonas and inquire about his injury and origin. Jonas hesitates in response, appearing in rough shape due to a recent hanging attempt. The men assume he's a returning prisoner of war and insist on taking him to a nearby town for food, mentioning a woman named Erna who has a soft spot for the wounded. Accompanied by the two men, Jonas heads into town, where they encounter mourners walking alongside a coffin, creating a somber atmosphere. This situation adds to Jonas's feeling that he has ventured far from his intended path, reminiscent of scenes from The Witch. The men instruct a young girl, Agnes, to notify Erna to prepare food, suggesting that this is a young Agnes's early appearance. In the local inn, Jonas is provided with a bowl of soup and continues to field more questions. To protect his identity, Jonas fabricates a story about being from the Eastern Front as a POW. Erna decides to offer him a room for about a week. As Jonas gathers the courage to ask about the current year, the locals reveal that it's 1921, marking a new period in Vinden's history. The episode then transitions to June 24, 2020, just 3 days before the anticipated apocalypse. The camera pans up to reveal two intertwined bodies, Jonas and Martha, making love. Jonas utters, "I think we're a perfect match. Never believe anything else." However, the scene suddenly shifts as Martha wakes up in distress, drenched in sweat, realizing it was merely a dream. She's troubled by Jonas's chilling disappearance and questions the authenticity of these vivid dreams, given his supposed death. We cut to the Vinden police station, where investigator Clausen is meticulously examining an evidence board on the wall, which includes a sketch of a mysterious figure known as the Stranger. Suddenly, Torben Waller enters the room and informs Clausen that Charlotte Doppler is not coming to work due to illness. Waller attempts to discreetly leave, but Clausen insists that Waller accompany him on his assignments in Charlotte's absence. Meanwhile, inside her grandfather's study, Charlotte is going through various files and documents. Among them, she finds diagrams and charts, including the specifications for building a time machine. Her focus is interrupted when she receives a phone call from Hannah Canwald. We then cut to Hannah's house, where the enigmatic figure known as Stranger Jonas emerges from the shower. He notices photographs on the table and opens a metal lockbox, revealing a concealed handgun and passport that Hannah had hidden. He questions Hannah about these items, but she deflects by suggesting it's time to prepare breakfast. Moving on to the Nielsen house, Martha and Magnus, the children of the family, sit on the couch, concerned about their mother Katarina's recent behavior. Katarina has been absent, spending time in Mikkel's bedroom or exploring the caves, leaving the siblings to fend for themselves. Franziska, Magnus's girlfriend, knocks on the door with Elizabeth, her friend, in tow. She wants to speak with Magnus privately, as she is still upset about his accusation regarding Bernadette. Franziska offers a somewhat angry apology as an attempt to reconcile. However, their conversation is interrupted by Martha, who feels like she's being relegated to the role of a babysitter while the two of them engage in romantic moments. Franziska explains that she had to bring Elizabeth along because their parents had been absent for the past 2 days. It becomes apparent that neglecting their children is a recurring issue among the parents in the series. Feeling the need to explore the caves himself, Magnus decides it's time to investigate what's been going on there. In 1921, Jonas awakens in a strange room reminiscent of his childhood bedroom, with his wounds tended to. Teen Noah is in the room, casually cleaning his fingernails with a sharp knife. Noah informs Jonas that he's been asleep for 24 hours, but Jonas is baffled. After Noah leaves, Jonas notices a framed picture on the wall, recognizing the words Sic Mundus Creatus Est as the Emerald Tablet. With a newfound urgency, Jonas gets dressed and leaves the room, encountering a young Agnes at the inn. In 2020, 1980s Claudia arrives at the Vinden power plant, hoping to speak with her older self, but is surprised to learn that Alexander Tiedemann is in charge now. Inside the plant, Clausen questions Alexander about his interactions with Ulrich and the locked cave door. Alexander claims strict security standards prevented the boys from entering. Clausen notes that no one leaves Vinden, and Alexander suggests the power plant provided income for many families. Clausen points out Alexander's arrival in 1986 coincided with the boys' disappearance, making him a person of interest. As Clausen prepares to leave, he inquires about Alexander taking his wife's last name, Tiedemann. Alexander explains it was to preserve the family name, and his real last name is Kohler. The tension in the room is palpable, and Waller, a witness, appears uncomfortable. Clausen is told that Hannah Canwald is the next person to visit, adding another layer of intrigue to the unfolding story. In the Canwald home, stranger Jonas continues to question Hannah about a mysterious gun and passport. Hannah claims they are an insurance policy, surprising stranger Jonas, who can't believe his mother would resort to blackmail. They exchange a tense "who are you?" as they try to understand each other's motives. Their conversation is interrupted by a knock on the door, revealing Charlotte Doppler's arrival. Against stranger Jonas' wishes, Hannah has called Charlotte, and her motive for doing so remains unclear. Perhaps she believes Charlotte is the most level-headed and helpful person in town to make sense of the situation. Hannah introduces Charlotte to the older Jonas, and Charlotte realizes that he was the man who visited Regina at the hotel. She shows them an old Sic Mundus photo and points to a picture of Noah, asking for his identity. He reveals the man's name as Noah and explains that they are part of a group called Sic Mundus, or the Travelers. Charlotte surprises Hannah by revealing that she already knows about time travel, leaving Hannah feeling left out. Charlotte insists that they both need to see something, and they prepare to continue their investigation. Meanwhile, in the Vinden Caves, the teenage team consisting of Magnus, Martha, Francisca, and Elizabeth enters the caves. Elizabeth is fearful, but Francisca reassures her, promising to stick with her. In the Vinden Library, Claudia seeks access to the town's history. She approaches the librarian, who informs her that all historical files have been digitized and returns to his duties. Curious, Claudia asks how to access the digital files, and the librarian introduces her to the digital age. Claudia reflects on TV portrayals of librarians, noting their typical cold and snooty depiction, though in reality, librarians are usually quite helpful. This library scene adds a touch of humor to the otherwise grim show. Claudia sits in front of a tablet, struggling to understand the unfamiliar device. Eventually, she asks a young woman nearby where to find the keyboard, but the girl chuckles and shows Claudia that she can type directly on the screen. Claudia quickly adapts to the technology and discovers that her older self disappeared in 1987 after becoming the first woman to run the power plant. The scene shifts to Clausen and Waller in a car. Clausen inquires about Hannah, and Waller shares the somber details, including the possibility of an affair between Hannah and Ulrich. Waller eventually asks Clausen why he took the job in Vinden. It's revealed that Clausen volunteered for the position, and the mystery deepens. Cut to the bunker near Helga's house, where stranger Jonas and Hannah are engrossed in examining a complex web of pictures and clues on the wall. Their attention is drawn to a compelling photo of Ulrich, who was arrested in the 1950s for the murder of the missing boys from that time. Peter Doppler is also present and informs Hannah that Claudia had given them specific instructions in a little date book. Hannah is still upset that Charlotte had kept this information from her and wants to know if Katerina is aware. Charlotte agrees that it's time to reveal the truth. Meanwhile, back at the library, Claudia continues her research into her family's history. She discovers news about her daughter's marriage to Alexander Tiedemann and Regina's plan to open the Waldhotel Vinden. Her attention then turns to her father, Egon, and she is devastated to learn that he was found dead in his apartment on June 26, 1987. The narrative then switches between scenes of Jonas in 1921, the teenage group in 2020, and the adults in 2020. Jonas attempts to find the Sic Mundus tunnel in the caves but is met with a surprising obstacle, a solid rock wall where the portal should be. Frustrated, Jonas realizes he can't seem to reach the right time, and he screams in frustration. In the dimly lit cave, the determined group of teenagers embarked on a perilous journey armed with nothing but their mother's cryptic map and a single flashlight. As they cautiously scoured the labyrinthine passages, an unsettling revelation struck Elizabeth, the ground beneath them quivered, and an eerie sense of intrusion crept in. They were not alone in these caves. Suddenly, From the shadows emerged a figure bearing a flashlight and a mysterious suitcase. It was Bartos, the presence of whom added yet another layer of confusion to their already complex predicament. In the enigmatic web of time traveling, there now seemed to be two time machines, one under Claudia's possession and the other clutched by Bartos. And let's not forget stranger Jonas, who had recently absconded with Hannah. Amidst this tangled puzzle of time and machines, the teenagers had no time for deep contemplation. Suspicion shrouded Bartos like a dark cloud, for he refused to reveal the purpose of his suitcase or the reason for his presence in the caves. This unease was compounded by Martha's lingering disappointment in Bartos as a boyfriend. The tension reached a breaking point. Driven by a surge of emotions, they decided to take matters into their own hands. Bartos was restrained, and he became the target of their frustrations. They subjected him to a harsh beating and made the drastic choice to leave him behind in the unforgiving depths of the cave. One couldn't help but sympathize with Bartos, a character who had been painted as the antagonist in Season 1 due to our allegiance to Jonas. He had fallen in love with Martha, only to discover her affection for Jonas, leading to their painful breakup. Now, he found himself isolated in a world full of complexities and uncertainties. His mother was battling cancer, and his former girlfriend's brother had turned against him, leaving Bartos in a precarious and lonely position. In the adult storyline, Charlotte takes Katerina to the bunker to reveal the time travel secret. Katerina is angry at Hannah and assumes it's a prank, but Jonas assures her it's true and drops a bombshell: he's her son and Hannah's grandson. Katerina is overwhelmed and runs out of the bunker, desperate to reunite with her family. Meanwhile, Clausen asks Waller about his missing eye, hinting that it happened last summer. Cut to Katerina at the high school, searching for Michael Canwald's picture. She finds her son Mikkel in the class photo, realizing the child she once bullied is her lost son, leading to a heartbreaking moment. In 1921, Jonas meets young Noah, who confirms the tunnel won't open for 32 years. Jonas is taken to Sigmundus, the travelers, in search of answers to get home. Back in the 2020 bunker, stranger Jonas plans to stop Adam's last cycle in 3 days. He looks at Claudia's picture, saying she became what she fought against. Jonas leaves the bunker with a plan to thwart Adam. Finally, in the 1980s, Claudia emerges from the cave. In the year 1921, a young Noah guides Jonas to a church. To Jonas's astonishment, another Noah, much older, emerges from the shadows. The shock dawns upon Jonas as he realizes that he's standing before two Noahs, separated by 33 years. A vital detail to remember is that in their previous encounter, Jonas had confronted and incapacitated the older Noah, taking him to a chair, which set in motion a sequence of events that displaced Jonas in time. In this intense moment, Jonas had been on the brink of approaching a young Mikkel, a pivotal moment in history. However, Noah intervenes and prevents Jonas from taking that step, cryptically remarking, "You've already made my acquaintance." In the interlude of our story, we find Bartos tied up on the cave floor, facing an uncertain fate. Meanwhile, Katerina is deeply engrossed in pictures of her missing son, leaving her kids, who are visibly worried, to quietly head upstairs. The heavy silence hangs in the air as the family grapples with their own thoughts. Elizabeth and Francisca are also dealing with the absence of their parents. They cast a solemn gaze at the empty sofa, a constant reminder of their parents' mysterious whereabouts. In a different part of this complex web of events, two individuals known as Noah guide Jonas through a labyrinth of caves, with a clear purpose in mind. Back in the present, Claudia returns home to find Regina sleeping on the sofa, possibly contemplating the complexities of their intertwined lives. Clausen, on the other hand, is making a significant move, scribbling the name Alexander Kohler onto an evidence board, signaling a new lead in the unfolding mysteries. Suddenly, we are transported to the year 2053, where the girl from the future stands in the room where Jonas ventured into the enigmatic God particle. Elizabeth confronts her, anger in her voice, but the girl is no longer the obedient assistant. She demands answers about the God particle and learns it's considered both a piece of God and the devil, a paradoxical revelation. In the year 1921, young Noah engages in a thought-provoking conversation with older Noah. They ponder the origins of a book filled with prophecies, wondering who penned it, with older Noah suggesting the author had glimpsed both the past and future. This poses a crucial question about the trust they place in this source of guidance. Young Noah inquires about what lies ahead, and older Noah reveals that Adam will send Jonas to set the last cycle in motion, all while he's distracted by the missing pages of the mysterious book. In the Great Room, Jonas and Adam finally come face to face. Adam anticipates Jonas's reaction to his disfigured body, a result of extensive time travel's harmful effects on the human form. He reveals that, in the absence of hazmat suits, he had endured countless journeys through hazardous mines without any protection. Adam then asks Jonas if he's prepared to begin, but Jonas, burdened by his past and the torment of time travel, is eager for it all to come to an end. In a moment of profound revelation, Jonas inquires about Adam's true identity. The shocking truth is dropped: Adam is none other than a future version of Jonas himself. To prove it, Adam unbuttons his dress shirt, exposing a telltale scar on his neck. Jonas is left in stunned disbelief, tears cascading down his face as he grapples with the revelation. Adam concludes by assuring Jonas that everything is in place and only requires a final push. The narrative leaves us in suspense, as the enigmatic circumstances suggest that Jonas, in his quest to escape the horrors of time travel, might have inadvertently played a role in its creation. In Episode 5, Lost and Found, the episode starts much like the previous one, with a camera that initially focuses on feet and then gradually moves upward to reveal two people engaged in an intimate moment. Martha is the person lying face up, and the person on top remains in shadow until the light unveils that it's actually stranger Jonas, not the Jonas we're familiar with. Martha's face displays shock as she gazes at her belly, which suddenly starts to show a strange phenomenon, a growing black blob. This mysterious blob resembles a miniature version of the Higgs field that Jonas uses for time travel. In a change of perspective, it's the stranger Jonas who wakes up from the peculiar encounter, gasping for air. Now, it's the older Jonas who finds himself dreaming of Martha. As he regains consciousness, he is in the year 2020, trying to reorient himself after the disorienting experience of the dream. In 1921, teen Jonas wakes up with a bandage around his neck, and it's not Noah but his older self, Adam, sitting nearby. Adam reflects on how people often dislike those who resemble them the most. Jonas is still shocked to learn that Adam is his future self and just wants to get home. Adam tells him to get dressed and leaves the room. Jonas notices the outfit laid out for him, which includes a yellow raincoat, representing his hope and his feelings about life before becoming a time traveler. Fast forward to June 25, 2020, just 2 days before the apocalypse. The stranger stands next to Hannah's bed, contemplating something. He eventually leaves the house with a suitcase, leaving us uncertain about his intentions in this time period. At the Nielsen house, Katerina holds a class photo of her son Mikkel from 1986. Magnus and Martha arrive with the time machine, but Katerina wants to share something with them. Martha is angry at her for waiting so long to talk and storms out, not having spoken to her family for months. In the Tiedemann house, Alexander is on the phone trying to gather information about Inspector Clausen's interest in Vinden. He has contacts and believes he can find out more about Clausen's background. Regina is concerned because Bartos hasn't come home, despite Alexander's belief that he's with Martha. Regina knows they broke up and is not reassured. Alexander hugs her, and she asks him to promise that everything will be alright. In 1987, Ulrich finds himself in a psychiatric hospital and observes an orderly unlocking a door with a keycard, the eerie music indicating his sinister intentions. Meanwhile, in her office, Claudia reviews news clippings about Egon's death. Her assistant informs her about the arrival of the French delegation. Claudia abruptly reschedules the meeting and cancels all appointments, signaling her emotional turmoil. She wears a bright red shirt, symbolizing passion or the travelers in the show. In the year 1921, within the Great Room, or Sigmundus Lair, Jonas gazes at Peter Paul Rubens' Fall of the Damned painting, donning his iconic yellow raincoat. Adam shares a philosophical insight with Jonas, explaining that men live three lives, one until the loss of naivete, the next until the loss of innocence, and the final one until the loss of life. Jonas yearns to return to his time, fearing the impending catastrophe, but Adam assures him that they have plenty of time since the apocalypse won't occur for 99 more years. Back in 1987, the orderly visits Ulrich and chats about Ronald Reagan's speech at the Berlin Wall. Ulrich, pretending to listen, strikes the guard with a bowl concealed under his pillow, taking the key card and escaping from the hospital. In another scene, Claudia surprises Egon at his apartment, a rare occurrence. She tries to conceal her real intentions behind concern for his health, but Egon misinterprets her awkwardness as genuine worry about his cancer. Claudia abruptly suggests that Egon move in with them the next day, leaving him shocked and bewildered. Egon's comment, "You're acting like I'm on my deathbed," adds an eerie undertone to their conversation, as he is seemingly happy but uncertain about Claudia's true motives. In the year 2020, we find Hannah sitting at her kitchen table, engrossed in reading a mysterious note. The table is adorned with family photos, a poignant reminder of her life. Suddenly, Katerina arrives and inquires about stranger Jonas, but Hannah informs her that he's already departed. Katerina, perplexed, wants to know how to see Mikkel again, and Hannah cryptically mentions the need for a time machine. Katerina chuckles, thinking it's a joke, but Hannah insists it's the truth, albeit irrelevant since the stranger has taken the time machine suitcase and left. As Katerina glances at the family pictures on the table, she picks up images of Michael. Realizing he's her son Mikkel, she's struck by the revelation that he was right here the whole time. Katerina confronts Hannah, reproaching her for her affairs with both her husband and son and for coveting everything that was once hers. They argue over Ulrich's true affections. Their heated discussion is interrupted by another knock on the door, and this time, it's Inspector Clausen. He scolds Hannah for missing her appointment, emphasizing that her son is missing. Clausen is surprised to find Katerina visiting and hints at his knowledge of their affairs, a piece of information he likely received from Waller. He presents a sketch of the stranger and inquires if either of them recognizes him. Katerina, surprisingly, denies any knowledge, exchanging meaningful looks with Hannah. In this peculiar moment, their rivalry momentarily takes a backseat as they unite against the outsider Clausen. Despite their mutual animosity, they both dislike Clausen even more. With only the two women left, Clausen questions them about the man in the sketch, and Hannah also denies any familiarity. The scene shifts to the Nielsen house, where the sound of shattering glass resonates. Stranger Jonas enters the house and proceeds to Martha's room. He sits there, taking in her scent, marking 33 years since he last saw her. He places the St. Christopher's pendant on her pillow, a symbol of their enduring connection and the time loop they share, as Martha and Jonas continue to exchange it. In the year 1921, Adam and Jonas engaged in a conversation, with Jonas curious if Adam possessed knowledge of all future events. Adam cryptically replied that he knew the extent of Jonas's existence. While we won't delve into their entire discussion, Adam hinted at the possibility of a time-altering loophole while emphasizing that events generally followed their historical course. Cutting back to the year 2020, Clausen continued his dialogue with Hannah, noting the tight-lipped nature of the townsfolk and their well-kept secrets. Hannah remained silent as Clausen shifted the conversation to Alexander Tiedemann. He revealed that he was aware of her no longer being Alexander's therapist, yet he was still paying her the same amount. Hannah defended this by stating the tight-knit nature of Vinden, with Alexander helping her after Michael's suicide. Clausen, however, remained skeptical. Clausen's lack of subtlety and empathy in his approach became apparent as he picked up a photo of Hannah, Katharina, and Ulrich as teenagers, insinuating that the townspeople of Vinden seemed to be intimately involved with one another. Clausen's abrasive tone wasn't conducive to earning the trust of the townsfolk, making it clear that he wouldn't learn much by interrogating them. Shifting to the Vinden caves, a group of teenagers, led by Elizabeth, entered with determination. Elizabeth, however, had a feeling they were being followed and turned to find adult Noah lurking behind a tree, silently observing their entry. His presence in the shadows raised questions about his intentions and involvement in the unfolding mysteries of Vinden. In the depths of a hidden bunker, Charlotte and the mysterious stranger find themselves in a tense conversation within the dimly lit caves. Charlotte's curiosity is focused on one particular enigma, Noah. She prods the stranger for more information about this enigmatic figure. The stranger's response echoes what Charlotte has heard before: Noah is a time traveler, a mere puppet in the grand scheme of Adam's sinister plans. But there's a darker revelation: Noah is responsible for the deaths of several children, including Mads, Eric, and Yashin. Curiously, Charlotte ponders why Noah and Helga exclusively targeted boys. She speculates that perhaps Noah is searching for a daughter, unwilling to risk harming an innocent child. This chilling thought lingers as Charlotte begins to connect the dots. She reveals her deep-seated fear that all of this somehow ties back to her. An unsettling question arises as she wonders if Jonas knows the identity of her parents. The fear in her eyes is palpable, and Jonas, in a solemn tone, discloses that he does not have that information. However, he drops a bombshell: he knew Charlotte's grandfather. In a further revelation, Charlotte confides in Jonas that Tannhaus isn't her true grandfather, he took her in when she was young. She's left to grapple with this newfound truth. Then, the conversation takes a darker turn, with Charlotte asking if Tannhaus was also a time traveler. Jonas dismisses that notion, describing Tannhaus as nothing more than a pawn in the grand chessboard of their lives, manipulated just like Peter and the stranger himself. He points an accusing finger at Claudia, painting her as the mastermind behind the suffering they've endured. In this web of time-traveling mysteries, Claudia emerges as the true orchestrator, overshadowing all others. In the Vinden caves, the group of teenagers finds Bartos tied up and in a dire state, having been left without food or bathroom access for at least 12 hours. They press him relentlessly about the mysterious machine in the suitcase, but Bartos is unwilling to reveal its purpose. When they threaten to abandon him again, Bartos finally divulges that it's a time machine, though the others initially think he's joking. Martha, however, believes him and insists on seeing how it works. Bartos reluctantly demonstrates, using Martha's phone as a signal, and the machine activates, transporting the group through a time portal. Cut to 1987, where Claudia and Bernd Doppler have a private meeting at Bernd's home, rather than at the office. Claudia brings up a past accident at the power plant and questions Bernd's explanation of a volume control system issue. She's discovered that the data doesn't support his explanation. In response, Bernd shares a black folder containing shocking results. He had samples analyzed, and the numbers matched those of Englert, Braut, and Higgs from 1964, suggesting the existence of a God particle within the nuclear power plant. Claudia is thrilled by the discovery, and both of them discuss the implications. They agree on the importance of going public with this information. Claudia is eager, while Bernd is concerned about protecting his legacy from potential scandal. Claudia promises to keep the power plant out of the discussion, respecting Bernd's wishes while still pursuing the groundbreaking discovery of the God particle. Cut 2. Ulrich, in a rush of urgency, heads to the Canwald house, driven by the sudden turn of events and lacking a clear plan. As he approaches, he's stopped in his tracks by the sight of Mikkel, now just a year older than when he disappeared, playing with a Rubik's Cube at a picnic table. For Ulrich, it's been over 33 years since he last saw his son, and the overwhelming emotions render him speechless. Mikkel, the sweet and sensitive child, notices Ulrich's distress and, although unaware of his true identity, asks if he's okay, recognizing the look of someone who seems lost, a feeling he knows all too well. Cut 2. At the hospital, Ines walks down the corridor and discreetly takes some pharmaceuticals, concealing them in her smock. She's caught in the act by a colleague, but she quickly comes up with a plausible excuse. Her co-worker shares a rumor about a local madman escaping from the psychiatric hospital, which fills Ines with fear, prompting her to hurriedly leave. Cutting back to the Canwald house, Ulrich's anxiety subsides as Mikkel emerges with 2 glasses of orange juice. They share a silent moment, both taking big gulps. Ulrich, on the brink of speaking, is interrupted by Mikkel, who finds him oddly familiar. In response, Ulrich reveals that he's been waiting 33 long years for this moment. He turns his glass upside down and says, "The question is not how, but when." He asks Mikkel if he remembers, and Mikkel nods in affirmation. Emotions run high as they embrace, and Mikkel calls him Papa. Cut 2. In the year 1921, we return to Jonas and Adam. Jonas speaks of a prophecy from the future, mentioning a new world and how Sic Mundus is meant to lead them to paradise. He inquires whether Sic Mundus is a religion, to which Adam responds negatively. Sic Mundus, he explains, is the antithesis of religion. They are at war with time, seeking a world devoid of it and God. People, Adam says, actually worship time, and until one masters time, they remain subject to its whims. In this view, God is time itself. In the year 2020, Charlotte finds herself back at Tannhaus store, sifting through papers once more. But her focus is broken when a familiar face enters the store, adult Noah. Charlotte's anxiety surges as she believes him to be a child murderer and a terrifying presence. Noah addresses her by name, introducing himself as Noah. Charlotte, however, knows his dark reputation, accusing him of the heinous act of killing children. In this vulnerable moment, Noah appears uncharacteristically undone, attempting to explain his actions. He claims that everything he did was for her, to protect her from being taken away, along with her mother. Charlotte is on the verge of tears as Noah produces a picture of her as a baby and shares memories of her birth. Overwhelmed, Charlotte begs him to stop, not comprehending the truth that emerges: Noah is her father. This revelation is far from the news she had expected. Noah expresses his sorrow for not realizing she was in Vinden all this time, but Adam was aware. Charlotte is left bewildered by this unexpected revelation. Noah cryptically warns that the apocalypse is imminent in just 2 days and that he knows what he must do to prevent it, hinting at confronting Adam. In a desperate quest for answers, Charlotte asks about her mother, and Noah only cryptically mentions that she loves Charlotte very much. Tearfully, he departs, leaving Charlotte in a whirlwind of emotions. Meanwhile, in 1987, the teenage time-traveling group emerges from the Vinden caves to find that things have changed. Notably, the armchair used for time travel is no longer there. Suspicion falls on Bartos, with Magnus being particularly skeptical about the reality of time travel. Bartos, however, admits that he had doubts too until someone referred to as he began predicting events, like Jonas and Martha's kiss, and his mother's illness. Magnus presses for the identity of this mysterious person, and Bartos reveals it to be Noah. Franziska chimes in, recognizing the name and mentioning that Elizabeth knows him as well. Bartos discloses Noah's claim of a war on time and Jonas's impending return. This piques Martha's interest, as she's still searching for Jonas and latches onto the idea of his return. Magnus, accompanied by Franziska and Elizabeth, walks away in disbelief, while Martha walks away with unresolved questions, leaving Bartos pleading for her to believe him. Cutting to a different scene, Ines returns home, calling out for Michael, only to find the door ajar and 2 glasses on the table. Panic sets in as she fears that the man from the hospital has taken him. She contacts Egon, but he surprises her by revealing that he hadn't yet heard that Ulrich had escaped. Egon promises to pick her up so they can embark on the hunt for the missing individuals. In the thrilling and intricate world of Vinden, our story continues to unfold. We find ourselves in a tense moment as Mikkel and Ulrich dash towards the mysterious caves, pursued by police cars on the road behind them. Their desperate flight leads them to the cave entrance, but they're met with an ominous command to halt from the unseen voices within. Ulrich momentarily hesitates, but the police fire warning shots into the air, compelling him to shield Mikkel. Alas, they are captured, Mikkel returned to Ines, and Ulrich relegated to the back of a police cruiser. The silence of young Mikkel in this dire situation leaves us perplexed. What was he thinking? Was he willingly going with his father, or did he feel coerced into it? This moment adds to the suspicions surrounding Ulrich, as the townsfolk believe he intended to harm Mikkel, much like the previous disappearances. Meanwhile, in the year 1921, the enigmatic Adam continues his cryptic discourse. He acknowledges that Mikkel, now known as Michael, is but a small cog in a grander cosmic mechanism. Jonas confronts Adam, frustrated by the apparent lack of change despite Adam's assertions of being able to alter events. Adam reveals that events must follow a specific sequence for change to occur. Shifting to 1987, Claudia visits the Vinden power plant and discreetly hands a vial of cesium to a man in a blue coat, urging him to test it confidentially. The outcome of this experiment seems poised to revolutionize their understanding of the world's intricacies. In the Vinden forest, a group of teenagers emerges near a familiar bus stop, showcasing anachronistic posters that hint at their displacement in time. Modern Talking's 1986 tour advertisement and a political ad for Helmut Kohl, a key figure during Germany's reunification, serve as reminders of their temporal dislocation. Yet, the oblivious teens take little notice. As they wait, 2 older model police cars pass by. Ulrich, trapped in one of them, desperately tries to alert them to the presence of his children, but his cries go unnoticed in the relentless tide of time. In 2020, Hannah examines a photo Clausen shared with her earlier, showing Katerina, Ulrich, and herself. She decides to fold over one side of the photo, obscuring Katerina's face and leaving just her and Ulrich together. At this moment, stranger Jonas unexpectedly enters the room, surprising Hannah. She appears genuinely happy to see him, believing Jonas had left. In an attempt to connect with him, Hannah tries to engage in conversation, but Jonas remains distant and aloof. While in the room, Jonas gazes at various pictures of their family, pondering the revelation that he now knows about Ulrich. He questions whether Hannah ever truly loved his father. Hannah acknowledges that she played a role in causing problems, expressing regret for her actions. However, Jonas responds with coldness, telling her, "Maybe you always have. You need no one." With those words, he abruptly goes upstairs, leaving Hannah alone once more. As the music played, a group of teenagers emerged from a cave. Martha glanced at Bartos briefly but turned away, leaving him once again feeling abandoned. Ines cradled Mikkel in her arms as she carried him home. Egon stood there, perplexed by the unfolding events. Meanwhile, Ulrich was securely restrained to a hospital bed, and Charlotte examined a photo given to her by Noah. Ines prepared hot cocoa, secretly adding drugs to the mix. Martha returned home to find a St. Christopher pendant on her pillow, a mysterious gift. Finally, Adam led Jonas into a room housing an intricate machine. He explained that this machine wasn't the same as the one in 2053, it was its twin and part of something infinite. The machine they were looking at had the power to travel anywhere in time, and it could potentially break the 33-year cycle. Adam shared a confession with Jonas, revealing the existence of a potential loophole. They could go back through the portal to June 20, 2019, the day when Michael Canwald died, and prevent the cycle from repeating. He urged Jonas to save his father's life. Jonas, though hesitant, decided to trust Adam for once. He put on a grey suit and stepped into the God particle, knowing that they had the ability to create a God particle. The truthfulness of Adam's words remained uncertain, and only time would reveal if this risky journey would bear fruit. In the 1980s, we follow two characters, Claudia and Ulrich, as they grapple with their own personal missions. Ulrich is consumed by a singular desire to bring his son Mikkel back. He believes that by reuniting with his child, everything in his life will be set right. Claudia, on the other hand, is motivated by a more complex drive. She's determined to prevent the terrible events that have befallen her father and daughter. Both characters are driven by their narrow-sighted goals, and their emotional journeys are shaped by these pursuits. Meanwhile, in the year 1921, our focus shifts to Jonas, who finds himself in a high-stakes battle to avert catastrophe. His mission extends beyond his own well-being, as he is committed to safeguarding those he cares about and the entire world. Jonas has transcended his own self-interest, becoming more willing to accept the possibility that he may cease to exist if it means achieving a greater good. The story raises the question of whether Jonas will summon the courage to make the ultimate sacrifice for the sake of all. In episode 6, titled An Endless Cycle, we see Jonas waking up to the sound of the song Nena playing. He's wearing a blue shirt, and the entire color scheme suggests innocence and calm. It's the day his father, Michael Canwald, died, a day Jonas considers the beginning of his troubles. Jonas heads downstairs, planning to spend the day at the lake with his friends. His father, Michael, is alive and well, smiling and teasing him. Everything seems perfect as Jonas's mother, Hannah, gives Michael an affectionate squeeze from behind. The Canwalds appear to be a happy family. However, when Hannah mentions the Nielsen anniversary party, Michael becomes distant and anxious. He struggles to make coffee as his hands tremble uncontrollably. Michael decides to stay home from the party, which raises questions about his memories and his identity. It's June 20, 2019, the day before Michael's suicide. Jonas leaves for the lake with his friends, taking a yellow raincoat with him. Michael panics when he sees the raincoat, dropping his coffee container, and seems to have a moment of déjà vu. Hannah tries to comfort him, but Michael insists on staying home to finish his picture. Meanwhile, Jonas, Magnus, Martha, and Bartos ride their bikes towards the lake. Martha rides ahead, frequently turning to smile at Jonas, who appears happy and relaxed. The scene shifts to the Sigmundus church, where church bells ring. The yellow raincoat-clad Jonas emerges, along with a mysterious neck scar. Across town, in the morning light, Ulrich and Katerina begin their day. Katerina, awakening, rejects her husband's advances due to her menstrual cycle and other undisclosed reasons. The tension in their relationship hangs in the air. Ulrich, however, is unfazed by the fact that Katerina hasn't bothered to shave her legs in a while. Their private moment is disrupted when someone opens the bedroom door, prompting snarky comments from Ulrich. Meanwhile, Mikkel, in another part of town, feels unwell, his body covered in red spots. Interestingly, Mikkel and Michael seemingly existing in the same time period, share a connection that transcends the ordinary. It's as though they can sense each other's emotions, like lost twins separated by time. While this mysterious connection unfolds, Katerina discovers that Mikkel has contracted rubella, and she chastises him for getting sick, particularly on this important day. In another part of town, Alexander reads a newspaper article about an unsolved murder that occurred 33 years ago in Marburg. The pursuit of two fugitives remains ongoing. His concentration is interrupted by Regina, who invites him to join her for lunch at a hotel. She can sense his distraction and inquires about his well-being, expressing concern. At the Doppler household, Charlotte maintains her usual stoic demeanor. When Peter enters and questions the whereabouts of their children, she remains silent. Their conversation escalates into an argument, with Peter accusing her of being emotionally detached. Charlotte, however, insists on attending a party alone, leaving their relationship strained. Meanwhile, near a lake, Bartels shares a creepy tale about a lady who drowned there, claiming that she will pull you under when she's hungry. Martha, growing tired of the water, joins Jonas, clearly drawn to him for his maturity compared to the other boys. They engage in a flirtatious and intimate conversation about the upcoming party. Martha confides her concerns about her parents' happiness and inquires about Jonas' family. Jonas, uncertain about his own family dynamics, idly plays with the sand and discovers an object resembling a coin. Martha identifies it as Saint Christopher, the patron saint of travelers, adding a touch of mystique to their conversation. Jonas, with the conspicuous neck scar, heads towards the power plant with secret plans in mind. As he walks, Ulrich, Katerina, and Mikkel drive by and question why he's not at the lake like everyone else. Jonas, perhaps to conceal his scar, zips up his rain jacket. Mikkel extends his hand for a fist bump, leaving Jonas perplexed. Katerina warns him not to touch Mikkel, and they offer him a ride, which Jonas declines. Before driving off, they playfully tease him about Martha's feelings for him. Meanwhile, at the lake, Magnus takes a quick break to relieve himself behind a tree. His tranquility is disrupted when he spots a body floating face down in the water. In a panic, he rushes to the body, only to discover that it's Franziska, who was casually floating topless in the water. This unexpected encounter leaves Magnus shaken, and Franziska seems to find amusement in his reaction. It might just be the beginning of an attraction between them. Martha, at the lake as well, is engrossed in reading the play Ariadne in preparation for her performance. She catches Jonas watching her and engages him in conversation. Martha wonders if he ever wishes he could know what will happen next, even if it's just a glimpse into the near future. She senses that something significant might occur. Just as their connection deepens and an almost kiss is about to happen, Magnus dashes between them, breaking the tension. Jonas is abruptly reminded that he's supposed to assist his grandmother in learning how to use a tablet. In the tangled web of time travel and relationships, an unexpected meeting occurs when neck-scarred Jonas defies the established rules by approaching Martha just after idealistic Jonas departs. He's pressed for time and expresses his belief that they are a perfect match. Their kiss is passionate, but Jonas soon departs, leaving Martha in a daze. Meanwhile, an emotional scene unfolds as Ulrich and Katerina stop by Hannah's place to pick up some glasses for a party. Michael, who is Mikkel from another time, watches from the window as they arrive. Hannah wishes them a happy anniversary, and Mikkel goes inside the house. Michael starts to panic, realizing the situation is bending time's rules. Then, in an astonishing twist, Michael and Mikkel come face to face. Both are stunned by the encounter. Mikkel explores the house, seemingly puzzled by the surroundings. Just before entering, Hannah experiences a strange déjà vu moment when she gazes at Mikkel, as if she's trying to recall something about him. Downstairs, Michael hesitates outside the bathroom, seemingly torn by a decision. He tries to listen at the door as Mikkel comes out. Mikkel, too, appears to be searching for someone and eventually spots Michael. Their encounter is fraught with terror, as they come to terms with the impossible situation they find themselves in. As the lake crew decides to head home, Bartos, who apologizes to Martha for missing the party, compliments her on her hair. In this intricate web of time and emotions, it's a day of surprising and unexpected connections, where the rules of time travel are bent and tested. Jonas and Hannah arrive at the Nielsen's party, where the atmosphere is lively and the town's residents have gathered. Hannah, carrying a pan of tiramisu, is dressed in a striking red dress. Martha, who is usually seen in dark colors, surprises everyone by appearing in a resplendent white outfit. Jonas dons a white shirt, matching Martha's unusual choice. Katerina warmly greets Hannah and is ready to enjoy the festivities. Jana and Tronti engage in conversation with Magnus, expressing their pride, although it's unclear what they're proud of given Magnus' poor attendance at school. Magnus may even be wearing Francisca's shirt from earlier in the season. Katerina also approaches Charlotte and invites her to dance, but Charlotte declines, noting the absence of her husband, Peter. Hannah also notices Peter's absence, just as Charlotte comments on the absence of Michael. Ulrich opens a bottle of champagne, and he and Katerina take swigs directly from it. A moment is shared between Ulrich and Hannah, making Katerina uneasy. Although Hannah seems like a family friend, her emotions betray her. Jonas, as he leaves the party and heads towards his house, is met with stormy weather and strong gusts of wind. He enters his house and is brought to tears by the sight of it, as he hasn't been there since burning the letter. This is a weathered and emotionally burdened Jonas who has seen much. His father, Michael, steps out to greet him, surprised by his presence. The emotion on Jonas' face speaks volumes, and he embraces his father tenderly. Michael is taken aback by this warm greeting and is shocked when Jonas tells him that he knows everything. Jonas goes for an ultimate fist bump, which throws Michael into confusion. He then addresses his father by his real name, Mikkel Nielsen, a name Mikkel hasn't heard in 33 years. Heartbreakingly, his dad asks for forgiveness. Meanwhile, at the Nielsen's party, Ulrich entertains everyone with a slideshow of old pictures of Katerina, including some with Hannah. Mikkel comes downstairs in search of comfort from his mother. However, the accompanying music is the iconic Rick Astley song, providing an unexpected twist. Katerina carries Mikkel back to bed and agrees to stay with him until he falls asleep. In the Canwald house, Jonas is on a desperate mission to prevent his father, Michael, from taking his own life. He firmly believes that his presence is meant to stop this tragic event from happening. However, to his shock, he discovers that his father has no intention of ending his life. Anxious and distressed, Jonas inquires if Michael has already written a suicide note. To his amazement, he produces the very letter from his pocket. Tearfully, Jonas pleads with his father not to go through with it, but Michael, also known as Mikkel, is at a loss for words. Meanwhile, over at the Nielsen house, Martha leads Jonas into her room. She gives him a St. Christopher's pendant, which they found on the beach, and she has put it on a red cord. Martha refers to it as the red thread of fate and explains that St. Christopher is the patron saint of travelers. In this surreal moment, the two are having completely different conversations. Jonas is oblivious to the fact that his other self has previously kissed Martha and expressed passionate feelings about being a perfect match for her. Martha, however, is in love with the bolder and more daring Jonas she encountered on the beach. Seizing the initiative, she kisses him, further complicating their intricate relationships. Back at the Canwald house, Jonas questions Michael about how he found the mysterious passage. Michael reveals that he was led there by someone, and that someone turns out to be Jonas himself. He describes a strange incident at the caves, where a peculiar noise and flickering lights caused everyone to panic. Mikkel was with Jonas, and when they got separated, Jonas reappeared, guiding him to the cave and the tunnel. Mikkel trusted Jonas, so he followed him. They spent the whole night there, but when morning came, Jonas had vanished, leaving Mikkel bewildered. Jonas finds himself in a conversation with Michael, who tells him an astonishing story. Michael claims that he saw his younger self earlier that day, which confuses Jonas. Michael then suggests that perhaps Jonas is there to guide him rather than prevent something. Jonas grapples with his role in betraying Mikkel, a significant event that led to many of Vinden's mysteries. Michael, like stranger Jonas, understands that without the fateful events of that night, his beloved son would never be born. He contemplates that he is just a small part of a much larger plan or problem. Mikkel expresses a belief in fate, stating that God doesn't err. He has a plan. Their conversation is interrupted by the unexpected arrival of old Claudia. Claudia claims that she and Jonas have met before. When Jonas asks if she is aligned with Adam, she makes a surprising revelation. She views Adam as the darkness and herself as a follower of the light. This mirrors the beliefs of another character, Noah. Claudia informs Jonas that Adam sent him back in time not to prevent the impending disaster but to ensure it occurs. She emphasizes that only Jonas can stop it by waging a war against himself and making significant sacrifices, as some decisions affect more than one's destiny. It remains unclear whether Michael can see Claudia or not. Meanwhile, at the Nielsen house, a storm rages on. Hannah and Ulrich, who share a complicated history, sit outside together. They share an intimate moment, reminiscent of their past encounters at a bus stop. Hannah offers Ulrich a cigarette, but he hesitates, seemingly due to a promise he made to Katerina. Ulrich questions whether the storm signifies the apocalypse, just as they discussed at the bus stop. He asks Hannah what she would wish for, and she responds, a world without Vinden. Their connection begins with a storm and a stolen kiss. As the rain pours down, Ulrich rushes towards shelter in the yard, pulling Hannah with him. They share a kiss, while Katerina holds Mikkel, creating a complex web of relationships as the two women are with each other's husbands. Meanwhile, across town, Peter sprints to Benny's trailer and notices a parked tractor trailer. Inside the shadows between the trucks, he finds Franziska, who is following her father, just as Magnus had followed her. Magnus, on the other hand, is looking at photos of Franziska on his phone. Back at the Tiedemans' home, they are enjoying some champagne, and Martha and Jonas are engaged in a passionate encounter. Their white attire symbolizes that it's their wedding night. The scarred-necked Jonas also embraces his father, then follows Claudia outside, sharing a final gaze with his father. Michael, deep in thought, carefully writes a letter that he is destined to write. As he does so, Jonas trails old Claudia into the caves, where Michael utters, "We make a lie into our truth in order to survive." Adam, contemplating his past, gazes at a St. Christopher pendant, perhaps recalling a night when he kissed a girl in a white dress. Suddenly, Adam is interrupted by the arrival of a man and a woman. They scold him for not revealing Jonas's true task. Adam cryptically responds that the last cycle will commence soon. The woman addresses the man as Magnus, and they hint at sacrifices all of them must make, indicating their past as lovers. Together, they peer at the unruly God particle, setting the stage for mysterious and intricate events to unfold. In episode 7, titled The White Devil, the story delves into the complexities of human desire and the enduring power of pain. The episode begins with a reflective voiceover, noting that people are driven by their desires and shaped by their pains. They may attempt to suppress their pain and desires, but they remain bound to their emotions, unable to find true peace in life or death. As the narration unfolds, we witness a series of interconnected characters lost in thoughts about the last time they saw the objects of their desires. Adam, in the sick Mundus room, gazes at an image of Martha dressed in white, reminiscent of their time at the anniversary party. In another scene, a troubled Jonas is asleep, while Hannah watches over him, holding a time machine suitcase and reminiscing about Ulrich. She is dressed in a 1950s style outfit and high heels, adding a touch of nostalgia. Ulrich, on the other hand, is seen in the same outfit he wore during their last encounter. Martha, too, is not immune to these thoughts, as she contemplates a St. Christopher pendant and envisions Jonas in a yellow raincoat, with a bloody lip from a previous altercation with Bartos. Katerina is shown imagining her son Mikkel in a skeleton costume, a poignant reminder of the past. Lastly, we see Adam, the enigmatic figure, staring at an empty chair while holding the St. Christopher pendant, lost in his own contemplations. This episode beautifully explores the inner workings of these characters, their desires, and the lingering pain that defines their lives, drawing the audience deeper into the intricate web of Dark's narrative. On June 26, 1954, the people of Vinden were living under the shadow of an impending apocalypse, just one day away. In the local police station, two men, Egon and Daniel Canwald, were engrossed in the details of a mysterious case. A forensic specialist had just presented them with an autopsy report of a woman who had met a tragic end. She was described as around 5 feet 7 inches tall, aged 75 to 80, and the cause of her death was a gunshot to the chest. Her belongings included black shoes, military-style clothing, and a peculiar dial with numbers around the side. What made her truly unique were her eyes, as she had heterochromia, a condition where her eyes had different colors. This detail struck a chord with Egon, who couldn't help but think of his daughter. Egon recalled that the woman had come to the police station on the same day Helga reappeared in Vinden. She had been disoriented and had apologized to him, leaving a lasting impression. Daniel suggested that the woman might be Ulrich's accomplice and advised Egon to speak with Helga to see if he recognized her. Egon hesitated to follow this order, perhaps because of his connection to the woman. The forensic specialist also revealed a shocking discovery: Claudia's body was highly contaminated with radiation. He demonstrated this with a Geiger counter, indicating prolonged exposure to radiation. Daniel speculated that the woman might have worked as a radiographer, specializing in X-rays. In 1987, Claudia, a character destined to play a pivotal role in the events of Vinden, recorded some intriguing findings on a tape recorder. These findings hinted at the existence of the God particle, decaying into 2 protons with a mass of 125 gigaelectronvolts. However, there was a bizarre case where it decayed into 4 muons. Claudia's assistant entered her office, surprised to find her already hard at work. Claudia seemed lost in her research, and when asked the date, she learned that it was June 26. Her attention was drawn to a newspaper clipping reporting the discovery of Egon's body on that very day. This discovery prompted her to abruptly leave her office, neglecting a meeting with the French. Claudia appeared disheveled, a stark contrast to her usually fashionable and put-together appearance, as her thoughts were clearly preoccupied with something far more significant. In the year 2020, Jonas wakes up to a shocking discovery. His mother, Hannah, has vanished along with his precious time machine, leaving him isolated and stranded. He is now left to fend for himself, haunted by the specter of his teenage self. Meanwhile, Hannah is on a different path, preparing to enter the mysterious caves with a suitcase in hand. She wears a blue skirt, signifying a transition from passion to duty, hinting at a significant change in her life. Katerina, in a poignant moment, reveals a tattoo on her arm, K+U, a symbol of the vows she and Ulrich once made to each other. She also studies a map of the caves, fixating on a secret door indicated within. At the Doppler house, Charlotte shares a deeply unsettling Polaroid photo with Peter. The image captures Noah holding her as a baby, and she reveals that this enigmatic figure has made dire predictions about the world ending soon, with only those in a bunker surviving. Moreover, Noah claims her mother is alive, leaving Charlotte in a state of vulnerability. Peter is at a loss as to how to comfort her. In a different part of town, at the police station, Clausen examines a photo from his past featuring a younger version of himself sitting alongside a younger man, likely his brother. Justina Jankowski enters with information from the Marburg passport office, revealing that there is only one Alexander Kohler. Clausen is elated and quotes Freud, saying, "And then the eyes saw, the ears heard, and nothing remained concealed." Justina recognizes the quote but is quickly dismissed by Clausen, hinting at her role as the new Waller in the unfolding narrative. In a different part of town, a group of teenagers gathered to discuss whether they should share their recent discovery with the adults. Magnus and Franziska are in favor of revealing the information, but Bartos is hesitant, believing it might not be the best idea. Martha, however, seems preoccupied with thoughts of Jonas, who she suspects might be closer than they think. This obsession with Jonas frustrates Bartos, and he confronts Martha about it. Their argument escalates quickly, with Martha blaming Bartos for keeping information from them and, in her anger, telling him that he's no longer welcome in their group. She seems to place all the blame for her heartache on him and walks away from the others. In 1954, Egon pays a visit to Helga, who is not feeling well. Greta Doppler warns Egon that Helga can't talk for long. Egon gets straight to the point and shows Helga a photo of Claudia's corpse, an unsettling image to show a child. Helga, who seems to have witnessed much already, remains silent at first. Eventually, he mentions someone known as the White Devil to Egon. This catches Egon's attention, as he has heard this term before. Egon, trying to understand more, asks Helga to tell him about the White Devil. Helga responds by saying that she wants to kill everyone. Egon tries to reassure him that she's dead and can't harm anyone, but Helga cryptically responds, "But she hasn't even started yet." In 1987, Claudia pays a visit to her father, Egon, with a pressing question in mind: will he move in with her and her family? Despite trying to appear calm, Claudia is clearly flustered. Egon, however, appreciates her concern but is not ready to move just yet. He's about to head to the doctor's office for his first chemotherapy session, and Claudia wants to accompany him, which genuinely touches Egon. It's a bittersweet reminder of how much parents love their children. Fast forward to 2020, Clausen has a conversation with Alexander, and the mysterious Waller is present as well. Waller hands Alexander a document containing passport records for someone named Alexander Kohler. Clausen notices that the height listed in the passport information doesn't match Alexander's. This minor detail gives Clausen the perfect excuse to arrest Alexander. Meanwhile, in a different part of town, the enigmatic stranger Jonas is engrossed in examining photos laid out by Hannah on their kitchen table. His thoughts are abruptly interrupted by a knock at the door. The person on the other side fills him with a mix of dread and anticipation. To his surprise, it's Martha, who has come seeking answers about the complex world of time travel. Jonas is terrified but unable to resist answering the door, setting the stage for a crucial and tense conversation. In a mysterious and unsettling encounter, Martha hesitates when she comes face to face with a stranger named Jonas. Even though she doesn't recognize him, his presence sends shivers down her spine and triggers a sense of déjà vu. Just as she's about to leave, Jonas questions if what they're experiencing is a glitch in the Matrix, leaving Martha in stunned silence. It dawns on her that this must be Jonas, the person she's been searching for. They share a moment of realization and understanding as they lock eyes for the first time. Meanwhile, in the year 1987, Claudia sits beside her father, Egon, as he undergoes chemotherapy. Egon reflects on his career as a police officer and expresses doubts about whether he was a good one. Claudia, who struggles with emotional expression, attempts to change the subject and reassure him. However, Egon surprises her by taking her hand and acknowledging her unique perspective on the world. This rare display of tenderness moves Claudia to tears. Egon continues to question his understanding of the world, referencing a movie, possibly Back to the Future, where a man can use a car to travel through time. He begins to connect the dots, speculating that time travel may be real and somehow linked to Mads and Helga. Regret washes over him for failing to grasp these events earlier. Claudia, on her part, remains silent, uncomfortable with Egon's contemplations. Like Charlotte, she wishes to unravel the mysteries surrounding time travel without any external interference. In 1954, Egon returns to the station to find a woman waiting in his office. He's uncertain about what to expect, as a similar situation occurred with Claudia before. The woman introduces herself as Hannah and claims to know the man in the asylum. Egon is curious and eager to speak to her. Hannah is looking for her husband, who she saw in a newspaper accused of killing children. Egon shows her a photo of Ulrich with a bloodied face. Hannah acts unsure and wants to see the man in person. Egon explains that the man is in a psychiatric ward, making it challenging to arrange a meeting. He also doubts that the man will speak to anyone. When asked for her name, Hannah reveals that she's Katarina Nielsen. In 2020, Jonas and Martha are having a heartfelt conversation at the kitchen table. Martha is curious about where Jonas has been, and he apologizes for his absence. She reaches out to touch him to confirm that he's real, and they share a tender moment. However, their reunion is interrupted by an angry Katarina, who is ready for a confrontation with Hannah. When there is no response to her knocking, Katarina takes matters into her own hands and breaks in. Jonas steps in front of Martha protectively, and it's a good thing he does, as Katarina comes in with a hammer. She drags Martha away from Jonas and demands to know if Martha knows where her brother is. Jonas reveals that he is her grandson and Martha's nephew, leaving Martha with mixed emotions. Katarina wants to know the whereabouts of the time travel machine, but Jonas apologizes, saying that Hannah has taken it. Martha steps in and informs Katarina that Magnus now possesses the device and that they have been time traveling. Katarina is shocked to hear that Mikkel is in 1987 and warns Jonas to stay away from Martha, showing no warmth toward her grandson. Clausen walks into an interrogation room, prepared to question a man named Alexander. He places a gun on the table between them. Clausen's brother had disappeared in 1986, and his brother's name was Alexander Kohler. However, there are 700 people with that name in Germany, and the man sitting across from him had become untraceable, taking his mother's maiden name. But a few months ago, Clausen received an anonymous tip, a message that hinted at secrets. He that has eyes to see and ears to hear may convince himself that no mortal can keep a secret. If his lips are silent, he chatters with his fingertips. Betrayal oozes out of him at every pore. You'll find the answer concerning your brother in Vinden. A friend. Despite the cryptic message, Clausen is certain that Alexander is not his long-lost brother. In 1954, a man named Egon drives Hannah to see a person named Ulrich. Egon reveals that Ulrich never confessed to a crime. Instead, he claimed he wanted to save the children. This baffles Egon, as Ulrich was supposed to be searching for his missing son. Egon also mentions something called the White Devil and advises Hannah to try to get Ulrich to confess. In 1987, Claudia drives Egon home and learns about a mysterious man who traveled from the future to 1953. This man attempted to kidnap another boy, causing Claudia to become increasingly anxious. Claudia invites Egon to move in with her, hoping to reassure him and prove that he's not crazy. In 2020, Franziska and Magnus reveal a time machine to Peter and Charlotte. Peter is curious about when they traveled, and tensions rise as secrets come to the surface. Martha calls Magnus, informing him about the return of an older version of Jonas, known as Stranger Jonas. Charlotte urges them to stay out of the situation, but Francisca, tired of all the hidden truths, loses her temper and storms out of the house. In 1954, Hannah finds herself face to face with Ulrich, who's in a straitjacket with his ankles cuffed together and a battered face. They talk in private, and she tentatively reaches out to touch him. Startled at first, he eventually recognizes her, thinking she's an angel. Ulrich is overwhelmed with gratitude that she has come for him, and he inquires about their children, Mikkel and Katerina. However, when he asks about other people, Hannah's demeanor turns cruel, and she questions whether he would choose her or Katerina. She reminds him that he never said "I love you," but he insists that he loved her and still does, promising to leave Katerina if she helps him. Hannah rebuffs his pleas, stating that he doesn't need anyone, especially not her, and she turns her back on him. She informs Egon that he is not her husband. Meanwhile, in 2020, Katerina gazes at a family photo. Martha embraces her from behind and assures her that everything will be fine. Magnus arrives with a suitcase, and Katerina wonders if they know how to use it, but it appears that only Bartos does. Katerina closes the suitcase and takes it upstairs. Martha reveals to Magnus that both Mikkel and Ulrich are alive, but they are in another time. In 1987, Claudia urgently pushes her father, Egon, to pack his belongings quickly. Egon, needing a moment, gathers his medications as Claudia had suggested. While packing, Egon starts rambling about Ulrich and their plan to explore the caves, realizing that the caves are at the center of something significant. Claudia, however, is determined to prevent anyone from interfering with the caves and tries to stop her father from calling the police. Egon remains steadfast, and a gap seems to close within him as he recognizes that Claudia is present because she knows about time travel and its connection to the nuclear plant. He's saddened to think that Claudia may be part of the cover-up that has concealed the truth, including potential knowledge of the bodies in the caves. Egon wants the caves to be searched, and Claudia vehemently denies his claims, trying to regain control of the situation. Egon is resolute in his duty to report what he's discovered, while Claudia fears the consequences of having the police swarm the caves, as the secrets contained within are too precious. Whatever is hidden in the caves holds greater significance than any scientific discovery. Egon is shocked to realize that Claudia is primarily concerned with protecting her own interests and lacks empathy. This realization is surprising considering he had just praised her for her unique perspective on the world. Claudia, feeling somewhat hurt, wants to help Regina but can't bring herself to confide in Egon. Their argument escalates over the phone, and in the heat of the moment, Egon falls, hitting his head and ending up on the floor, injured and dazed with blood pooling behind him. Claudia rushes to his side, initially attempting to call an ambulance. However, she abruptly hangs up, fearing that Egon's report might lead authorities to investigate the caves. This decision is influenced by the words of an older Claudia: "You will have to make sacrifices. Everything will happen as it always does. But if everything goes right, she'll live." In this gripping episode, we witness the heartbreaking decline of Egon's life. Claudia, consumed by guilt, apologizes for her actions, which have taken a toll on her father. In a chilling moment, Egon refers to Claudia as the White Devil, a prophecy that has come true. The episode begins with Egon witnessing the exhumation of his daughter's body for evidence. However, his life takes a drastic turn as he succumbs to blood loss, and Claudia can only watch helplessly as her father nears his end. In a different timeline in 1954, Egon shares a moment with Hannah, offering her a cigarette. He expresses regret for not acting faster when Ulrich lost control, and their conversation shifts to Agnes Nielsen. Hannah claims not to know her and reveals her desire for a fresh start after losing everything. They share a smile as they light their cigarettes. The episode's interlude features God's Whisper by Rory, while Claudia mourns her father's death and leaves the room. Meanwhile, various characters across different timelines deal with their own challenges and contemplations. Claudia returns home, finding a note from Regina stating that she's staying with a friend. Overwhelmed by the day's events, Claudia desperately washes her hands, attempting to rid them of the bloodstains, and breaks down in tears. Unexpectedly, a teenage Jonas enters the house with keys given to him by the older Claudia. This perplexes Claudia, who doesn't recognize him. Jonas explains that her older self provided the keys and that he knows what she did. He hints that things can change in the future, and they are about to embark on a journey to that very future. Just as older Claudia once guided Jonas, it is now Jonas's turn to guide a younger Claudia into the mysteries and challenges of their time-traveling world. In episode 8, Endings and Beginnings, the story unfolds with an ominous atmosphere as the camera pans toward the town of Vinden. We find Elizabeth in the year 2053, in the aftermath of a devastating apocalypse. Amid falling ashes, she uncovers a metal box buried in the straw. Inside the box are precious mementos, a Doppler family photo, a distinctive fox hat, and a collection of Polaroids. The photographs reveal Elizabeth's happier moments from the past. In one, she lovingly cuddles baby Charlotte, and in another, she and Noah, her partner, hold their child together. Elizabeth's tender touch on these pictures reflects her longing for the happiness of those times. The scene then shifts to the year 2020, where we see an adult Charlotte lying in bed, watching a young Elizabeth sleeping in her father's arms. The narrative weaves between these two time periods, highlighting the interplay of mother and daughter across different points in time. This episode marks a poignant exploration of the cyclical and interconnected nature of time and relationships in the world of Vinden. In 1921, a man named Noah finds himself in the sick Mundus lair, where he's faced with a unique dilemma. He reflects on the interconnected nature of time, the past, present, and future. He mentions not being able to reveal the identity of someone's mother and the purpose of their existence, much like he can't explain his own task for the day. He's been pondering this moment for years. Noah then speaks to his younger self, feeling a deep connection as he remembers being in the younger Noah's shoes before. He realizes that he wanted to share something important with his younger self, but now understands that the truth must be hidden from him. The reason is clear: revealing the truth might alter the younger Noah's path and prevent him from reaching the moment he's in now, where he must fulfill a crucial task. Noah expounds a philosophy of determinism, suggesting that their desires dictate their actions, and they are not truly free to choose. Despite knowing about Adam's betrayal, he cannot share this information with his younger self, as it might change the course of his life. Noah acknowledges that without Adam's manipulation, he might have found happiness elsewhere, but he remains bound to Adam by perpetuating a lie. Old Magnus and Francisca then emerge, indicating that everything is ready. Old Noah instructs young Noah to follow them through a door, while older Noah watches him leave. This enigmatic moment is filled with the weight of hidden truths, determinism, and the necessity of maintaining a particular course of action. On June 27, 2020, the world stood on the brink of an impending apocalypse. At the Canwald house, Stranger Jonas was a picture of nervous anticipation. The clock ominously displayed 9:23, a moment heavy with significance. He couldn't afford to waste any time. With a mixture of determination and trepidation, he pried open Hannah's metal box, a mysterious container of secrets. Within that enigmatic box lay a passport and a gun. Stranger Jonas carefully extracted the firearm, his eyes darting around the room. He couldn't help but steal a glance at a particular spot on the floor, a haunting reminder of past events. With the gun now concealed at the back of his pants, he departed from the house, poised for the unknown mission that lay ahead. Elsewhere, young Jonas engaged in a conversation with the middle-aged Claudia, a figure entangled in the intricacies of time travel. Young Jonas shared his resolve to undo the impending apocalypse, recounting his previous attempts. He had managed to close the wormhole but had been unable to break the loop. However, a glimmer of hope still burned within him. Older Claudia had mentioned the possibility of small changes, and he clung to this notion. In his mind, he believed that this time he could succeed, even if the logic of his plan remained a mystery to others. This new version of Jonas appeared different from the one we once knew. He seemed colder, more methodical, and emotionally scarred by the loss of his father. It was as if the pain he had endured had toughened his heart, rendering him more resilient to the challenges that lay ahead. Some speculated that perhaps the shadow of Adam, a character from a dark future, was starting to manifest within this Jonas, casting a foreboding shadow over his future actions. The day of reckoning had arrived, and Jonas was ready to face it, his path uncertain but his determination unyielding. In a dimly lit cave, Jonas and Claudia are deep in conversation, surrounded by yellow barrels. Jonas, with a sense of determination, explains to Claudia that big things in the world might be beyond their control, but they can still make a difference with the small things. He opens one of the barrels and pours a vial of radioactive waste into it, leaving Claudia visibly frightened. Meanwhile, in another part of town, Regina lies on a pillow, her hair wrapped in a scarf. Her son, Bartos, is curious about his grandmother, and Regina wonders why he's suddenly interested. Bartos reveals that Claudia visited him last fall, proving she's not dead. He shows Regina a photo from the 80s of them together, explaining that Claudia wanted to apologize for her past actions. Regina becomes emotional, and Bartos kisses her forehead before leaving the house on an unknown errand. Across town, Clausen watches Alexander, who is clearly distressed and disheveled. Clausen presents a search warrant for the power plant, causing Alexander to worry about the plant's special operating conditions and the judge's swift approval due to charges against him. Waller, a witness to the scene, feels awkward. After Clausen leaves, Alexander pleads with Waller to intervene, but Waller believes that it might be for the best that the truth comes out. Back at the Nielsen house, someone vigorously knocks on the door. Martha descends to find a mysterious figure, Stranger Jonas. He urgently implores her to go with him and admits to being responsible for the impending catastrophe, claiming that a new cycle is about to begin. He touches his forehead to hers, leaving Martha momentarily speechless. However, she regains her composure and firmly rejects him, declaring that their actions are wrong. Stranger Jonas refuses to leave, revealing a gun and threatening her as the tension escalates. As the clock ticks down to the impending apocalypse, we find teenage Franziska and Magnus beneath a bridge. Bartos, their acquaintance, arrives and is taken aback to discover that they don't have the mysterious device with them. Magnus reveals that his mother has it. This unexpected turn of events sends Bartos into a panic since it deviates from the anticipated course of events. Wisely, Franziska suggests that maybe Bartos's role was to show them how the device works. Bartos rushes off in search of the device. Meanwhile, Katerina enters the Canwald house with the device, hoping to find Jonas to teach her its workings. However, no one is home, so she rummages through Jonas' belongings and stumbles upon a globe light and a map marked with the stranger's enigmatic symbols. In the year 1987, inside the caves, Jonas and the middle-aged Claudia make a breakthrough as they discover the wormhole. Claudia, who has only traveled using the suitcase-like machine, experiences the passage for the first time. Jonas reveals his plan to open the passage, which Claudia questions, as she believes it should remain closed. Jonas explains that his older self, guided by an older Claudia, has taught him everything. It becomes clear that this cycle of knowledge transfer continues. Jonas elucidates that there are two factions. Adam and Sigmundus aim to create a new world, while Jonas and Claudia seek to save the existing one. Claudia wisely asks, "Who is Adam?" This question remains unanswered as we glimpse Adam, monitoring a clock, and it appears he requires an oxygen tank. In 2020, Jonas coerces Martha into the bunker at gunpoint, where she discovers evidence of time travel covering the walls. He tearfully confirms the truth about Mikkel and begs for her forgiveness. Jonas promises her that he will return, as he always does, and implores her not to leave the bunker. Team Jonas and Claudia navigate the passage together, arriving at a blocked tunnel. Across town, Charlotte enters the police station and learns from Waller that Clausen has arrested Alexander and obtained a search warrant for the power plant. In a moment of confession, Waller admits that Alexander buried something radioactive on the power plant grounds in concrete, and he helped him do it, expressing his remorse. In the midst of impending apocalypse, Charlotte makes a shocking revelation: the trigger for the catastrophic event is something Jonas knew about. Waller, somewhat baffled, assumes she means Team Jonas. Unusually, Charlotte invites Waller to accompany her. Meanwhile, Peter is desperately trying to reach Charlotte to inquire about Franziska's whereabouts. He also examines a pocket watch inscribed with "for Charlotte," indicating his awareness of the impending apocalypse. Peter decides they must head to the bunker, despite his own uncertainty. He recalls Noah's words, suggesting that only those in the bunker will survive. Elizabeth expresses concern for her mother and Franziska, but Peter reassures her, though his face betrays his inner turmoil. As the clock ticks down to the impending apocalypse, Clausen is guided through the Vinden power plant. Clausen's curiosity leads him to a mysterious door adorned with yellow suits. He learns it's the spent fuel pool for the old reactor, out of use since the 1990s. Eager to explore, Clausen disregards the radiation warning, citing the nearby safety suits as a solution. Across town, Katerina, Jonas' mother, descends with Jonas' backpack, marking another twist in the ongoing saga. She examines a photo album labeled Michael. Hesitant yet compelled, she opens it and discovers a treasure trove of photos capturing Mikkel's life growing up with Ines as his mother. These are the years that were stolen from Katerina, a poignant and emotional revelation. Stranger Jonas encounters Katerina, who is immersed in some unusual machine. Shocked to find her there, she asks him for guidance on how to operate the device. Intrigued, he can't help but wonder how she came to possess such a machine. Katerina's purpose is clear: she wants to use it to bring back her missing son, Mikkel. But Jonas, who possesses knowledge beyond her comprehension, informs her that this task is impossible. Frustrated and desperate, Katerina accuses Jonas of merely protecting himself, prompting him to explain that the situation is far from simple. He reveals that because he exists, Mikkel can never return, and any attempt to bring him back would end in failure. However, Jonas confides that he would willingly exchange his own life for his father's if he could. Jonas then opens up about his ongoing struggle to prevent an event called the Origin. He admits that he may not be able to prevent himself from becoming someone named Adam, but he is determined to change the dark path he has set upon. Meanwhile, in the sick Mundus lair, a tense confrontation unfolds. Adult Noah confronts Adam, accusing him of lying about his true intentions and revealing that Adam's war is not against God, but against humanity. Noah brandishes some missing pages, throwing them at Adam as a sign of his righteous wrath and determination to bring justice. In the face of Noah's anger, Adam remains unfazed, showing no fear. He cryptically mentions that Claudia was right, and Noah still doesn't understand the rules of the game being played. As Noah raises a gun, ready to exact his revenge, he shoots Adam, but the gun doesn't go off. Adam seems to know that his fate doesn't involve dying at Noah's hands just yet, leaving an air of mystery and tension in the room. In a tense and emotionally charged moment, Adam confronts Noah, urging him to let go of his emotions and familial attachments. He reveals a photograph of Elizabeth, claiming that Charlotte is her daughter and the mother of their family. Adam believes that Noah's connections to his family are preventing him from making a clear-headed decision. Suddenly, an older Magnus and Francisca, accompanied by Agnes with victory braids, appear. Agnes touches Noah's cheek, taking a pistol from his hand and shoots him in the heart. The scene is mysterious, leaving questions about when it occurs in Agnes's timeline. While Noah dies at the hands of his sister, a teenage version of Noah emerges from the sick Mundus lair in 2020. Meanwhile, in the Vinden caves, Jonas and middle-aged Claudia are preparing to open the sick Mundus passage using cesium. As they work, time travel dust begins to form around Martha in the bunker. At the power plant, Clausen and deputies are ready to enter the radioactive pool when the lights flicker. Peter and Elizabeth are on their way to the bunker when dead birds fall from the sky. At the Canwald house, stranger Jonas informs Katerina that Jonas has reopened the passage. Upon hearing this, Katerina leaves the house without taking the time machine. Inside the bunker, Martha seizes the opportunity to escape as Peter tries to stop her. At the Nielsen house, Bartos and Francisca notice the flickering lights and realize that the machine is gone, causing Bartos to panic. In 2020, Jonas and middle-aged Claudia exit the caves, wondering where to go. Jonas hands her a suitcase and instructs her to take it to the bunker near Helga's cabin. He plans to find his mother and Martha, unaware that Hannah is missing. With only 2 hours left before the apocalypse, tension builds as Magnus and Francisca try to contact Martha, and Peter asks Francisca to come to the bunker. Magnus asks her to wait for 30 minutes to see if Katerina and Martha arrive. The countdown to the impending catastrophe continues. Charlotte and Waller find themselves driving together in a car. Charlotte has confided in Waller about Noah's claim to be her father and his ominous prediction of an impending apocalypse. Meanwhile, Clausen and a group of power plant and sheriff's deputies enter the reactor room of the power plant. They discover a sealed floor in the room, which the man present explains is standard procedure. Clausen, however, insists that it must be opened again. Over at the Tiedemann house, Claudia, who is battling cancer, calls the station and requests the release of Alexander. She's alone at home when a middle-aged Claudia suddenly enters the house. Regina, who hasn't seen her mother in 33 years, breaks down at this unexpected reunion. Claudia apologizes for her past disappearance and urges Regina to come with her immediately. Regina, overwhelmed, cannot move, and they embrace. A clock on the wall reads 2:34 p.m. In the Canwald house, stranger Jonas is on edge as he gazes at a gun on the kitchen table. The house is in disarray since Hannah's disappearance. Someone enters, and stranger Jonas is ready for a confrontation. To his surprise, it's Teen Noah, the same person he met at the sick Mundus lair. They engage in a tense conversation about Jonas's transformation into Adam. Noah believes they could be friends, but Jonas insists he will not follow in Adam's footsteps. Noah reveals that Adam believes Jonas will betray him and that he considers Jonas the savior. He hands Jonas a letter, purportedly from Martha, instructing him to save Magnus, Francisca, Bartos, and eventually himself and Agnes. To ensure Martha's survival, stranger Jonas must leave the house and relinquish his role as guardian. This encounter between Jonas and Noah feels like a pivotal showdown, as they stand on opposing sides, each following a different leader and with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. Noah's words echo the significance of their choices, emphasizing the need to close the time loop for Martha's sake. In different time periods and locations, a complex web of events unfolds. Katerina is getting ready to enter the caves with supplies. In 2053, Elizabeth uses an opening beneath a wall to visit the God particle. In 1921, adult Magnus and Francisca outfit Adam with a suit and breathing tank. Back in 2020, men are drilling through the concrete of the nuclear reactor pool. Inside a bunker, young Elizabeth and her father, Peter, are waiting. Claudia and Regina enter, and Peter is shocked when he realizes that Claudia is the same Claudia from a picture on the board. Katerina finds the Ouroboros handle with a red string, but she lacks a Geiger counter to follow the signal. Meanwhile, the men continue to drill and uncover the first of the yellow barrels, increasing the suspense. Charlotte and Waller, along with a third man, head toward the reactor room. Teen Jonas enters the Canwald house, looking for his mother, Hannah. With stranger Jonas gone, the house is empty. Martha arrives, calling for Jonas. They meet, and Jonas begins to explain things, but Martha already knows everything. She reassures him and they share an exultant kiss, realizing they are a perfect match. In a dramatic and complex scene from the show Dark, Adam, the older version of Jonas, makes a startling appearance. He cryptically mentions the closing of a circle, hinting at the cyclic nature of time. Adam attempts to give a speech about all the pieces falling into place, but Jonas is furious because he feels that Adam has lied to him. Jonas demands to know why Adam would want the cycle of events to repeat itself. Adam cryptically responds that what is being created today is the beginning of the end. He explains that the dark matter must be created in the present to serve its future purpose. He also reveals that he is the catalyst that will transform Jonas into the person he has become, mirroring a conversation Jonas had with Noah when he was younger. Shocking everyone, Adam shoots Martha in the heart, causing a ripple of consequences. He prophesies that Jonas will carry this pain throughout his life until he is ready to let it go. Adam marks June 27 on the calendar, the day of the apocalypse and Jonas's festering emotional wound. He gives Jonas a choice between stopping him or saving Martha and then leaves the house. Meanwhile, at the Vinden power plant, Clausen is about to open a yellow barrel, believing it holds the key to his investigation. Charlotte and Waller arrive to stop him, revealing that the barrels are not related to the missing boys but are instead linked to the past and the future. Despite this revelation, Clausen insists on opening the barrels, revealing rocks covered in black ooze. As an interlude, the song My Body is a Cage by Peter Gabriel begins to play. In another part of town, stranger Jonas, an older version of Jonas, urgently seeks entry into the Nielsen house. Bartos, Franziska, and Magnus are hesitant as they've never seen stranger Jonas before. Bartos blames Jonas for the dire situation, and stranger Jonas, although recognized, remains silent. He sets up a machine to avert the impending apocalypse and ignores Bartos's inquiry about Martha's whereabouts. In 2053, Elizabeth activates the God particle, and in 1921, adult Franziska and Magnus adjust some dials on their machine. In 2020, the atomic matter inside the barrel begins to ripple and transforms into a large pulsing sphere resembling the others. People in yellow suits watch in awe as this mysterious event unfolds, suggesting a profound connection between different time periods and the impending apocalypse. Katerina finds herself inside a mysterious cave, studying a map that seems to shimmer with an otherworldly energy. This strange substance, possibly related to a God particle above her, begins to form a pattern on the map, guiding her towards a hidden passage. Meanwhile, Elizabeth opens a pocket watch labeled for Charlotte. As she does so, the lights in the nearby bunker start to flicker, creating an eerie atmosphere. Teen Noah enters the scene, his gaze lingering on Elizabeth, hinting at a deeper connection between them that may develop in the future. In the power plant, the enigmatic God particle transforms into a perfectly stable sphere, capturing the attention of onlookers. It undergoes a mesmerizing expansion and contraction before tilting on its side, revealing a portal between two worlds. Through this portal, Charlotte and Elizabeth spot each other and move closer to make contact just as an impending apocalypse begins. Amid the chaos, a mysterious figure known as Strange Jonas encourages Magnus, Franziska, and Bartos to approach a machine as it powers up. Bartos demands answers about their destination, but Jonas remains silent, adding to the sense of foreboding. In the year 1921, adult Magnus and Franziska share a poignant moment, holding hands. This raises questions about why they never left Adam's influence, especially given their apparent ability to travel through time and space. The tension escalates as a dark, amorphous entity engulfs the power plant and erupts outward. Back at the Canwald house, the world begins to tremble, but Jonas stands firm. However, the entrance of another Martha with a distinct appearance, holding a unique golden globe, shatters his resolve. She cryptically mentions that her origin is not tied to a specific time but rather to a different world. Jonas hesitates, torn between the two Marthas, but the imminent cataclysm leaves him with no choice. As the world unravels and collapses around them, Jonas is compelled to make a fateful decision. And so, Season 2 of Dark ends on quite a dramatic cliffhanger.